A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, just waiting.
It's lights out and away we go. It's a great start from Sebastian Vettel. Wing up up the inside. McLaughlin gets it just past the car. They run, but the Red Bull Racing man has got through. The champion's done the job. They're all gone. They're all gone. Tander's off. McLaughlin's off. Make room. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
Well, 2 weeks ago, it was controversy in the central regions of France as a safety car intervention caused calamity and forced the race to be decided on countback. Hopefully the Japanese have got it right for tonight's round. Welcome everybody to round 5 of the AMS Australia GT3 Championship, coming to you from Suzuka. Your ARW commentary team is in the house to bring it all to you on behalf of Short Shift Podcast. My name's Nether, and joining me in the box from ARW is Bagsy, and from AMS Australia it's Matt Williams. Gentlemen, how are you both?
Good, thank you.
That's the way.
Also well, thank you.
Well, as I said, we're here at Suzuka, and a few technical dramas becoming of us this evening, but we're going to get underway very, very shortly, qualifying not too far away. First and foremost, we'll bring up the points situation for you there, and Mr. Consistency Baker heads the point standings. And guys, have you had much of a chance to have a look at these points before tonight's race?
Just having a look at them now.
I haven't actually had a look at them myself since the end of the last round.
Well, while the guys mull over the points, and you see there Baker being on top. In fact, the first 3 positions filled by Pro B runners: Baker, Greg Nangle, and Brock Harvey, and very, very tight at the top. Lewis Wedding, the first Pro A man, there in 4th, and followed by Heath Dixon, another Pro B runner, in 5th. Rounding out the top 10, you've got Aaron Thomas, Jamie Snow, who we haven't seen much of for a little while, and likewise Corey Ott. And then you've got Matthew Swash and Stairs, the gentlemen who round out the top 10.
It's just having, now that I've had a look at them, because it took so long to get the results in after a couple of weeks ago, after the calamitous events, as you said, of the safety car driver in Main-Cours. And yeah, once it's all sorted out, points were all worked out, Baker's still in front. It is interesting how the longer race that we have here for the endurance races seems to have been, it's rewarding the consistency of some of these Pro B guys as opposed to the out-and-out pace that the Pro A guys have. So it's certainly probably the most interesting series that we run.
Certainly is. And if we now have a look at tonight's circuit, speaking of fast-flowing circuits, this is certainly one. It is Suzuka. In AMS it's commonly known as Kansai, but we all know it as Suzuka. 18 turns, it's a figure 8 layout, and it is certainly a favourite note, not just in the GT3 realms, but in the Formula 1 and all sorts of categories. You can see there it says round 4 above, but it's actually round 5. We estimate we're going to get around about 40 laps tonight. That's before, if a safety car intervenes, but we hope it doesn't intervene, but we'll soon see if it does. Well,
yeah, it's quite a good track, this one. I've been lucky enough to visit it in real life, and it's a beautiful place and an excellent circuit to watch the cars go around.
Well, qualifying is now underway, and our camera is just poised above the run to the hairpin. But we'll have a look and see who's currently on track. In actual fact, most of the guys are out on track at the moment. And our first man that we're taking a look at here on screen is Mr. Consistency. We called him before, Baker, as he comes up to Spoon Curve, and he's on an outlap at the moment. Just a 15-minute qualifying session before it all kicks off. And gentlemen, this is what we deem to be Super Sunday in terms of our enthusiasm in motorsports. Not only have we got a wonderful 80-minute race here in the GT3 this evening, but following this we've got the Monaco Grand Prix for real, we've got the Indy 500, and then for those that are really pushing the envelope, you've got the Coke 600 in NASCAR. It is it's Super Sunday in every sense of the word.
Yeah, it's certainly the biggest day of motorsports of the year, pretty much, bar, say, the Bathurst 1000 for people who are into that. It's, yeah, there's so much racing on. We've brought the start of this race up early, so people are able to not have to duck off as quickly as we have previously from this race.
Well, let's follow Baker on his out lap. Oh, he's out lap. He's now on his hot lap. He's negotiated the first 2 turns and now goes up through the S's. These turns are all about flow, sweeping lefts and rights. In a Formula 1 car, this is absolutely mega, this section. The drivers love it. In a GT3 car, the speeds are not that high, but they're still fun to drive. Now through Dunlop curb, coming up the hill, now plunging back down the other side. And now to the first of the 2 Degners, the right-handers. And then Degner 2 here, which then takes you under the bridge, just being a figure 8 circuit. And then sweeping to the right and now braking hard for turn 11, the hairpin. Slowest part of this one of the slowest sections on the track. The other slowest section being the final Casino Triangle chicane. And Baker commences his run through turn 12. And now up to turns 13 and 14, spoon curve. Tricky series of left-hand bends. Stairs, the first man to post a time, as you can see on the timing screens on the left, with a minute 58.7. We did expect that the pole time would be well into the 50s. In actual fact, the first 3 drivers in practice ended up with 59s. So 58s, maybe even 57s doable for pole. Baker comes through 130R. Flat out in a Formula 1 car, not so much in a GT3. And now down to this tricky sequence of right and left, and then another right to culminate the lap. And now the final run to the line.
Said Greg Tarago fastest by 1/100th of a second. So
he has.
Close to the top at the moment.
And Baker just a fraction away from dipping into the 59s. He does a 2-minute, almost 2-minute .091, and a very respectable lap for Mr. Consistency. Well, let's see who else is out on the track as we take a look. A couple of guys being parked in the garage, and here's Brock Harvey in the Aston Martin coming to the line. And he's going to go into the 50s as well, in a 59.3, and provisionally 3rd on the grid. Very, very respectable to start.
We've had Stairs go fastest through the first sector.
Well, here he is, and we cut to him. Oh, an wonderful, wonderful time we caught to him, and wonderful for our viewing, but you just saw that very, very tail-happy slide as he came around the turn. And we now have a look at our pole sitter, or a provisional pole sitter, as he approaches Spoon Curve. This Mercedes, we expect, will be very, very quick tonight. Very quick in a straight line, we know. Not so much in the turns, but in terms of flow and in terms of the fact that this circuit, a lot of the circuit, you're on the power for quite a substantial portion of time. We do expect that this car will be mega fast, or everybody that runs the Mercedes will be mega fast, as Tara's only 86 hundredths down on his own benchmark as he comes through the very, very short last sector of the circuit.
It's a purple middle sector for him there, so he's got every chance of beating his time there.
Very chance of beating his time as he races to the line. Let's see what he stops the clock at, and he stops it at a minute 59.1. So he lost 0.3 in that final sector.
Looking at Baker potentially slotting into 3rd here with the current lap that he's on.
Baker is currently, and I'm actually just watching the screens and having a look at Rob Dunt, gentlemen. So Rob Dunt is on fire at the minute, as according to the screen, and he jumps up provisionally into 3rd. So he lost his time in that 3rd sector, but he was lighting up the timing screens through the first 2 sectors and slots nicely into 3rd place. And Baker comes across the line and improves his time as well, but he's now up to 6th place.
Lost a lot of time in the last sector. He lost almost half a second, so he's definitely got the potential to go a bit better if he gets that chicane right.
If he gets the chicane right, that's all it is. That's where the only point on the circuit in Sector 3 where the Mercedes needs to really smarten its act up. That's one of the slowest parts of the circuit, and we did say the Mercedes not so good through the slow sections.
We just had Dwayne Davies in 13th set a purple... Oh, never mind. He's had a purple middle sector and has spun off coming out of the chicane. That is unfortunate for him.
A little bit unfortunate. And looking at our sector times, I had seen that Greg Tara had set a mega Sector 1. Not sure how he's doing here through Sector 2, but we'll soon find out. And he's also trying to push very, very hard to extend his advantage. He want to be very comfortable with Stairs only being 1200ths behind.
I was driving the Mercedes on Friday night here, and the only two spots in the track it's actually struggling, Casio chicane and through the turn 11 hairpin. Was the rest of the track it feels planted and just incredibly fast, which is not a feeling I got from the car before.
Speaking of incredibly fast, Greg Tara is half a second up on his best time, although he's had a very sloppy final chicane. So we'll see if he manages to keep this fastest lap or if he loses all that time.
Lewis Wedding, gentlemen's just gone to the top by half a second. We just caught him on the very, very last run to the line, and he's found half a second on that lap in that Lamborghini. That's absolutely mega. Tara's gone, still stays in second, so he's lost time in that last sector.
Yeah, Tara lost his time in the final chicane.
But that Lamborghini is mega fast.
Wedding was 4/10 faster in the first sector. He was 2/10 slower in the second sector, and he was a second faster in the final sector. But that wasn't really representative for Tara, as he had a large lock up into the chicane. So really, I reckon Tara might be able to take it to Wedding here if he.
We've got Stairs. Stairs is on a hot lap here, guys.
So we'll cut to see what Stairs is doing, because the top three guys, Wedding, Tara and Stairs, are duking it out for front row honours here. And let's see what the black and green Audi can do.
Stairs' first sector time is only 4 thousandths faster than Lewis Wedding's time. I can never say that properly.
Well, he negotiates the second part of Spoon Curve quite nicely, and he knows this circuit very, very well. ARW have raced here several times, Formula 1, so he'll be no stranger to this circuit. Let's see how he tackles here. He's only a tenth and a bit down on the top time, but he's nearly 3/10 up on the PB, so set to move up the order. If he can get it right, he locked the brakes, but managed to get it stopped in time for that chicane, but took a little bit of curb. Is there a price to pay for that? Let's see on this run to the line. And the Audi's not the quickest in a straight line, but it's certainly very, very agile. And he stops the clocks at 1:58.6. So he lost a lot of time that final sector, only improved his PB by just under 1 point, or a tenth and a bit. But he's provisionally on the second row, and Tara's not that far behind. So Tara's actually on another decent lap as well. He's lit up the timing screens through 1 and 2, and he goes second and takes second back from Stairs, and he's only a tenth away now from Wedding's time. So this battle for pole is hotting up very, very quickly.
Yeah, Stairs and Tara going back and forth. Stairs' lap time, his most recent one there, was it was a slower final sector than his initial timed lap. So he's definitely got the pace to go a little bit faster there. He still has the fastest first sector as well of anyone. So if he can string together his middle and final sectors, he'll probably be a contender for pole as well, as he's only a tenth down coming through the first sector.
Yeah, so through the hairpin he was just under a tenth down, and that's on both the current provisional leader and his own PB. So we did see that he made a little bit of a mess of it in the final sector through that chicane as he locks the brake going into the first part of Spoon, but it hasn't penalised him very, very much. And he gets the second part right, and now hard on the power, using all that exit curb as he needed on this run down the straight. This is such an important straight as it goes uphill. No, he's backed out of that. So I think he's almost
got a track cut.
Or did he get?
I think he ran too wide in Spoon Curve and was all four wheels off the track.
Aaron Thomas currently down in 14th place is on a hot lap.
That is a purple first sector.
Aaron Thomas. So let's have a look at the only BMW Z4 in the field. Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. One of two BMW Z4s in the field. Have a look at the PB, gents. He's nearly 9/10 up on the PB, and not that far away from the top spot either. This is going to be a lap that puts him probably into the top 3 rows. If he keeps on this pace, he could even be up into row 1. Dwayne Davies has gone to the top. He's gone to the top. He's gone to third. Where did that come from? And now been surpassed by Aaron Thomas. And now it's a provisionally so great lap from Aaron Thomas. But where did Dwayne Davies' lap come from, gents? That is staggering for that McLaren.
To make it even more impressive, this is practice session in this server tonight is the first time I've been on track with these cars. So that is Very impressive time.
That is an
He did,
extremely awesome lap.
He was on track for a best time before Wedding's time, and he spun off the track. So
Well, he's spun now,
it's
so
not entirely surprising. And he's definitely on the limit. Hopefully, he doesn't do that in the race, because obviously it's a lot more costly if he's spinning the race.
The McLaren has also received upgrades for this round to bring it closer to the front of the field, because it was struggling a lot in previous rounds.
in the balance of power stakes, that's very, very important. Aaron Thomas, have a look at this. 2.5 tenths up on the first place time through Sector 1, down in his own PB, so that just goes to show you how mega that BMW is through that first sector, which is all the flowing high-speed turns. That car's very, very dialed in. Now let's see what he can do for the rest of the lap, but that's a big, big margin on Sector 1. You know, quarter of a second. Oh, he's gone very deep here at Spoon Turn. Sorry to cut you off. He's gone very, very deep, locked it up, and gone over the curb, but he's gathered it up. Let's see if there's a price to pay for that, as he drag races now off of turn 14 and down the long back straightaway towards 130R.
Yeah, it seems that the Lamborghini of Lewis Wedding is gaining all its time in Sector 2 and 3 because they're the power sectors. Although he's still up despite that, he's a tenth up despite going wide at Spoon. You wonder if he got a bit of advantage from going wide at Spoon potentially, but if the game hasn't handed him a track cut, it's considered legit.
Well, he did make a mistake. It was an honest mistake, but he gathered it up, and here's the run to the line now. Just keep it straight as possible. He'll get another lap if he keeps pushing. What's the time going to be? It's pole by 1/1000th of a second.
That is unbelievable. That is the barest of margins here. I'm just having a look at it's a 158.197 for Thomas, a 158.198 for Wedding.
And I think Wedding, I'm not sure, is Wedding parked it or is he on the circuit at the moment? Because I just cut to him and there's a bit of an issue.
On the circuit, on a lap.
Well, Taro...
He's just coming into Spoon now.
Yep, so Taro's just exited Spoon, so this is Taro's final lap. So the Mercedes just took a bit of... kicked up a bit of dust there on the run down to 130R. Let's see what the time is. He's up on the PB. He's not far away. Look at this, 31 hundredths. This is going to be super, super tight. Taro needs to nail this final sector.
Yeah, the Mercedes has been struggling in the final chicane. It just doesn't seem to be able to get through that quite as well. We'll see if he's able to go to the top.
It's very neat and tidy.
The front of the Mercedes just doesn't want to help you.
Taro goes to the top by 3 tenths.
Yeah, it might not be there for long because Lewis Wedding is also on a very fast lap.
Yeah. Well, Wedding coming to the line now, and he sets a minute 50. No. Something happened to Lewis Wedding. He didn't quite get there. The only man now on track that can probably surpass this is Aaron Thomas. He's in the Exeter's second part of Spoon Curve and uses all the road. And now he's on his final tour of this circuit in qualifying. Now down to 130R. So he's the only man who can potentially upset the Tara party. And look at this, he's 2.5 tenths up through Sector 2. This is looking very, very good.
Into the chicane there.
So Tara currently the only man to dip into the 57s. And we could very well have another man to dip into the 57s. What has Aaron Thomas got in store? Can he take back pole? And... he doesn't, but he improved his PB and just fractionally less than 1/10 of a second behind. But that BMW Z4, we didn't expect it to be up on the front row, and what a great job by Aaron Thomas, gents.
I'm more impressed by Greg Tara. He managed to wrangle an incredible final sector from that Mercedes, and that's what got him the time and ultimately got him pole, because all the other Mercedes runners have been struggling through that corner. And especially with the final sector, and he's managed to pull a lot of time out of it there.
He certainly did. He got it very, very neat and tidy through that last Casio Triangle chicane, and that was where he lost all his time in the last few laps he'd attempted, but he got it all together. So Tara on pole from Aaron Thomas, and then Lewis Wedding, and probably, I have to say this, guys, probably the star performer of qualifying, got to be Dwayne Davies in that McLaren. Despite the fact it's got the upgrades, to be second row, that is an absolutely awesome effort.
It is definitely an impressive drive, no matter what way you look at it, but especially considering he hadn't done any practice prior to tonight.
Well, with 5 minutes of warm-up to go, we'll just perch ourselves to this nice little camera here above the pit exit. And, Bugsy, you haven't been privy to this, but Matt Williams and myself have, so we'll probably just have a bit of a chat about what's happening with the future of AMS Australia at the moment. There's a bit of a meeting of the minds this afternoon, and most of the guys have probably seen on Facebook that some of the events or the series have been shortened to take into account that we're going to start with Series 2 of AMS Australia racing and different events over the next couple of months, starting off in July. And probably the biggest change to the GT3 format that you're going to be watching tonight is it's going to have a bit of a rebranding. It's going to be classed as the AMS Australia WEC series after the World Endurance Championship. Still going to be an endurance format, but it's going to be a multi-class. And Matt, I think you and I are both looking forward to what's going to be in store for that. It's going to make for the provisional calendar. It looks like it's going to make for some awesome racing.
It definitely will. I think we're trying to provide more series for more people to race and to try and just make it all a little bit more exciting and add a few different levels to everything. So we're bringing in the LMP2 cars to go with the GT3 class, and I think that will be an amazing series going forwards, and we've already got a solid starting point, so I'm very much looking forward to that one.
And also to go along with the GT3 and the LMP2s, we're also looking, I believe, at the GTE endurance class as well, so your Corvettes and your Ford GTs that sort of you see racing at Le Mans, and you see racing in the IMSA WeatherTech Championship as well. Just to give you viewers a bit of a sneak preview as to some of the circuits that we're potentially going to be looking at come the start of the new series. Now, this series is still going to be going for a couple more rounds yet. It's been shortened from 10 rounds to 9, so we're at round number 5 at the moment. But to give you an idea of some of the circuits we're going to be visiting, we're going to be doing the Daytona Road Course is going to be first cab off the rank, which you've seen is famous for the Rolex Daytona 24-hour race. We've also got Monza in there, we've got Silverstone, and probably one that we haven't seen for a little while, and Formula One fans will remember this, is Fuji, which is something that, you know, bringing back a lot of the old favourites that haven't seen the light of day for some time. But it's not just the AMS Australia GT3 series going through a bit of a shake-up. The Super Series, the Porsche Cup, and that are all going through a bit of a shake-up. So the Super Series moving to a Mitsubishi Lancer format. The Porsche Cup will be...
That will also be a multi-class with the Lancer R and the Lancer Up racing in that.
Alright, and also going to have the Porsche Cup is going to be separate. The Super Series will no longer use the Porsche Cup. The Porsche Cup will be in a separate series of its own right. And we're going also to Formula V, and Formula 3 will be retained, but a little bit shorter series. So we're going for 8 or so races in a series. And then a couple of... there'll be an Oval Championship, and the Rookie Cup will still continue. But and then a couple of fun-filled special events throughout the year as well. So plenty of things in store, and plenty of circuits that some of you guys may have raced at before, and some of you that may have not seen in a very, very long time. But stay tuned. There's going to be quite a flurry of activity to finish the current series that are on offer. I should point out too that the only series that's being retained in its current format until the end of this year is the Supercars series. That follows obviously the week after every Supercars event in real life. We will run the Supercars in the AMS Australia League, and that will be retained right through until the end of the season. No disruptions there.
Yeah, the Supercars is going to remain, and as far as we're concerned at this point, we'll continue running that every year in the same format, just follow the real ones around. Being an Australian group, it makes sense for us to follow them around.
Certainly does. And a good mix of, in terms of tracks, a good mix of Australian content and international content for the majority of the series. Just looking on our thing here, the Formula V is pretty much the only series that is going to have an all-Australian content. All the other series will have a bit of a mix.
We wanted to, obviously being the Australian group, we do want to keep it as based in Australia as much as possible, but with the number of people in the group now, it's also a matter of you got to get around and make sure you get the variety and all that in as well. So spreading that out a bit more with a few more cars and a few more series and classes, just to try and make sure there's something for everyone.
That's right. And speaking of everyone, guys, there will be some expressions of interest coming up for these new Season 2 of series on Facebook in the next, hopefully the next couple of days or the next week or so. If you haven't thought about joining in any of the series, by all means, we encourage you to do so. There's plenty of activity and plenty of series on offer, no matter what sort of experience level you have. Please come along and make this AMS Australia group great. Well,
absolutely. We've got the rookie series, and anyone and everyone is welcome to come along, give it a go, and see if they want to race with us full time.
Unless, of course, you're Pro A or B, in which case you must stay away.
I plan on sneaking into it for a couple of rounds.
You can provide driver coaching, though. If you want to take a driver under your wing and try and bring them up to your level, feel free.
Lewis Wedding been doing a wonderful job with that in the Rookie Cup, I need to point out. So he's taken a few of those guys under his wing and aiming to help get them up to a very, very capable standard if they've not turned a wheel in anger before. Well, gentlemen, an hour and 20 minutes ahead of us as the grid starts to form up for this race. What are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be a challenge for anyone who isn't in Mercedes to be able to keep up with them across the length of the race, but we have been surprised many times before, so I won't put all my eggs in one basket there.
Yeah, we had Wedding basically walk away with it last week, so I think, or last weekend we were racing these. I think he still has a good chance of winning this despite being out-qualified. I think he has the most consistent pace. I think while the Mercedes is fast, they're definitely not unbeatable. I mean, the second Mercedes is Baker in 9th, so I think Wedding's gonna take this one out.
All right. Well, the grid is rolling on the formation lap, and let's take a look at your starting order. So, Greg Turra put together a mega lap in qualifying. I think it was the only man to end up with a time in the 1 minute 57s in that Mercedes. Starting alongside him, and a bit of a surprise, Aaron Thomas in the Drive Go-Karting BMW Z4. Lewis Wedding is the man in 3rd place in the Lamborghini. I must say it looks a little bit better compared to that entirely hot pink car that we had from 2 weeks ago. A little bit of a new paint job.
Definitely improved it.
Certainly has. And as we said before, probably the driver of qualifying, or the star of qualifying, Dwayne Davies in that McLaren, getting it all the way up to 4th place. Very, very unexpected result. Stairs occupying row 5 in the Audi R8, the number 5 black and green entry there. Brock Harvey, when he comes onto screen, there he is in the Matt Harvey Repair and Tune Aston Martin, silver and orange Aston Martin there, number 29, flashing the headlights. Heath Dixon, the man who won the opening round of the series at Bathurst, he starts 7th in the only Bentley Continental in the field. Rob Dunt in the red guest car Ferrari there, starting from 8th place, probably still on a high from that ARW 6 hour that we've had the other weekend. Baker, Mr. Consistency in the number 49 yellow Mercedes there. And rounding out top 10, the other BMW Z4 of Philip Boak. He'd been putting together a nice string of victories in the Pro-Am Super Series up until the merger of the two servers. Matt Webb is newcomer to the series. He's starting there in the plain grey and black Audi R8. David Keane starts alongside him in the Aston Martin in that Matrix-inspired livery, which we all seem to enjoy. Luke starts from 13th in the Mercedes number 2 car. Brenton Foley got a new livery for this round. There he is in the BF Race Engineering number 074 Ferrari. Matt Schwass starting a bit further back. He's been doing quite well as of late, but surprised to see him starting back so far in the number 39 Ferrari. Cracker starting from 16th, the only Nismo Nissan in the field tonight. Brendan Ross starting from 17th in the Ferrari, and rounding out the field is Aussie in the Mercedes.
It's looking like a very good field. Not so many Pro-Am runners in here compared to some of the other races, but and one unranked driver, which is Stairs, who is, as we said, starting from 5th. So he's probably going to be, when he gets ranked, Pro B, most likely.
Probably
so
right.
We'll see how he can perform today.
Sounds good. Lights out on the safety car. the field will form up and ready to take the start. We estimate we're going to get somewhere between 40 laps around 40 laps without a safety car intervention, and the leader holds the field to account, and green flag shown, and Tara gets a great jump away from the line. So that Mercedes power, obviously, look at that. Oh, Dwayne Davies got a bit of a tank slapper on, and he's gone around in the background. So he's not sure if he got a bit of a helping hand there, but probably should go back and
Baker's
bit of tackle.
Baker's gone with him.
And Baker's gone with him. So what has happened there? Something's gone down the field. Everything looks a bit more orderly, but we just saw it in the background, so we've just missed an opportunity to have the replay there. But there's Baker recovering to the track, and there's ahead of him Dwayne Davies, and no safety car, so everything continues on as per normal. But something happened there in the back, and Dwayne Davies I'm not sure if he got help, guys, but he had an awful tank slapper there, and strode to the inside or the outside wall of the track. Fortunately, only 2 cars involved, and the rest of the field got through.
It looked like Brock Harvey got a much better run once the leader took off, and I'm not sure what Wayne was doing, but it looked like he moved across and just caught the front of, it may have been Baker's car, I can't remember now, but he just caught his rear wheel on the front of someone else's car, and it just launched the back of that McLaren out, and away it went.
Well,
just having a look at the replay here, looks like, because Dwayne Davies got a very poor start, and he went and clipped Heath Dixon. He pulled across and didn't see that Heath had a better run on him, clipped him, which unsteadied his car. That got that massive tank slapper on. He got another hit from Heathy, which sent him going again, and Baker was an entirely separate incident, so I'm not sure what happened with Baker. Baker has got hit from behind as well, so I'll just update you on who that was. I believe it was Matt Webb who was hit Baker from behind.
One of the newcomers. Well, Tara's trying to check out here, and there's a bit of a train now forming behind Aaron Thomas as he goes a bit deep there at the chicane, comes back on, doesn't gain an advantage, but that gives Lewis Wedding an absolute carrot in front of him. Look how close he is down the front straight. Is that Lamborghini going to have the legs? It's got the inside line at the moment, but can it get past? And the BMW seems to be just maintaining its position here, but Wedding on the inside, and Thomas will have to give him some room, and Wedding makes a pass at turns 1 and 2, but Thomas is hanging with him on the outside here. Wedding just doesn't escort him wide, gives him the room, but up the inside, Thomas commits very, very, very early. Wedding has to back out of that. He's going to have to slot back in behind that BMW. Stairs now wanting to have a bit of a nibble of this as well. A very, very clean exchange between those guys, and Aaron Thomas now got not only Lewis Wedding hanging on to the back of him, but hanging on to the back of Wedding is Stairs. Hanging on to the back of Stairs is Brock Harvey, and all this time, Tara is just eking out the advantage ahead. He's got about 1.2 seconds on this little train. And then there's another little train behind that's headed by Heath Dixon.
This top 5 has made a hell of a getaway.
And Heath Dixon's actually broken a stranglehold on that train. Sorry to cut you off there, Matt, but Heath Dixon's just managed to get away as well.
Back down the order.
Stairs started from the second row, from the third row, so he's made a position being up to 4th. By virtue of Dwayne Davies going through the field, but according to me, he's in position on the screen, but I'm not sure what's going on there.
I've got Brock Harvey in 4th place on my screen here, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, on the timing screens, it's showing that he's he's sliding down the field, but visually he's 4th. But we've seen this happen before.
We've seen it before, and hopefully it's just once they finish the current lap, the timing will pick him up and put him back.
Yeah, well, there we go. His Stairs has popped back up into 4th, so I'm not sure if we have a bit of a transponder issue or something there, but he's now back up into 4th. He was visually 4th. Tara's lost a bit of his advantage here, but I think that's possibly just under braking for the chicane, or unless he's made a small mistake somewhere. But Aaron Thomas visually closer now. Oh, he's out on the weeds. Aaron Thomas out on the weeds. That's going to give Wedding an incentive to get up the inside now. Here we go again. This is take 2. And Wedding on the inside, and he's ahead this time visually on track, and that should be the pass made, and he should retain the position, and that is job well done for Lewis Wedding. And now he'll set his sights on that Mercedes.
And Dixon has brought the gap down by a few tenths to Brock over that lap. I think he was about 4 or 5 tenths quicker.
He has. He's still about 2.5 seconds behind Harvey, but if this train keeps going at the weight that it is, it won't be very long before they get there. Wedding having a bit of a look on Tara. We should just move the camera up a little bit so we can have a bit of a look, but Tara had gotten out to about a second and a bit lead, but it looks like he might be just driving a little bit conservatively. He's not as quick as what he was to start the race, and now this 5-car train is just starting to come back to being a 5-car train. It was Tara with a bit of a lead and then a 4-car train, and they're just starting to round him up here. They've just got to be a bit patient. Look at the Lamborghini, gained so much time under braking. So did Aaron Thomas, gained a massive amount under braking and just managed to avoid contact with Lewis Wedding at the hairpin as they now continue the climb up towards Spoon.
You think in the back of Tara's mind he'll be remembering about Mingura and how he went wide, gave up the position to Wedding, and he won't want to do that again because he wasn't able to keep up with Wedding for the rest of the race after that. Wedding checked out in front quite significantly, so you've got the feeling people behind Wedding are also wanting Tara to act as a bit of a stopgap as Stairs is getting, Harvey has a run on the stairs coming up towards 130R. It's almost suicidal to attempt to move on the inside.
Yeah,
looks like Harvey might.
He's backed out of it. He thought more sensible of that. We cut to the helicopter shot, and he definitely had the run, but he wasn't close enough to make the opportunity stick, and Stairs will survive for another lap.
Had a bump into the back of Wedding there, just a tap, but Wedding's held it well.
Yeah, this top three are closing up now, so Wedding's got the eyes on Tara here, and let's have a look because he's trying to get a hold of the slipstream. Now we know that the slipstream is a little bit more powerful in these cars than it is in the GT in the Super Series. Wedding sets a 59.8, and that's miles quicker than anybody else on the track at the moment. He was quickest last time around, quickest again. Thomas is in this battle as well. And he's closing up right under brakes as these two continue to scrap it out. We'll just wait for the remainder of the times to come in from the previous circulation. But Wedding is on a charge and got the absolute power of that slipstream is what managed to give him a 59 on that lap. And Tara taking that wide line through up to Dunlop is this obviously something that Wedding's able to hold a little bit tighter as they go through that long left-hander up the hill.
Can't help but feel Wedding's being held up a little bit here, to be honest.
Yeah, I get the kind of feeling that he probably is as well. We did see he did have a great tussle with Tara and with Aaron Thomas for the top three there. And we got full course caution. We've got a full course caution. So what's happening there? So this is a free kick to the guys that were in the pits. This is a free kick to Baker and to it was Dwayne Davies, who were caught out in that first safety car.
Speaking of Baker, he's made his way back up to 14th place after that first lap incident, so that's 3 places he's made back.
Yep. So the field is currently frozen. Have a look at Dwayne Davies. So Dwayne Davies obviously had to pit for some damage, so he's down in 18th. So probably a bit early for some of these guys to think about stopping, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone wants to go onto an alternate strategy, but I don't expect these guys to come in on this. Well, they won't be able to come in on this lap anyway because the pits are closed, as you can see from your screen there. The red cross in the left-hand side just above the position indicator dictates that the pits are closed and the field will now bunch up. So it'd be interesting to see what the cause of that safety car was.
I can't be sure, but it looks like there may be some damage to the front of Brendan Ross's Ferrari as he and Aussie run off the track.
Oh, Tara going a bit deep there. Aaron Thomas going a bit deep at the actually across the chicane. So that's rather
David
interesting.
Keane off track as well when the safety car was called. So there's the potential he might have been part of the issue as well. But the lucky thing for people like Dwayne Davies, that this is a very long lap. So Dwayne Davies was 40 seconds behind the next closest car at one point because of his pit stop. So this will put him in good stead. If he filled up his tank, he'll be on an alternate strategy and might have a shot at a much better place than he would have been expecting after the first corner.
Well, we got 3.5 laps of green flag racing before the safety car was called for, and if it stayed green, we were going to get about 40 laps. So I think we're going to be decidedly less than that now, as we watch Tara lead the field through the S's and up towards Dunlop.
I believe our 5th place driver has something to say to us. Brock, are you there?
Hey mate, how you doing?
Good mate, how are you going?
Yeah, good. Got plenty of pace tonight, so that's a nice change.
Yeah, you're looking good up there at the moment. Very good start to the race.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what happened to DD. He seemed to miss the start a little bit, and
yeah, he missed the start, and it looked like he just moved over to give you a bit more space to the front of Heath and around him.
Ah, there you go. I saw him in the wall, but yeah, it was kind of didn't have much time to look back because I had Heath right behind me. But no, we're pretty strong.
What are you thinking? Are you planning on pitting under the safety car? Or do you think it's worth trying to do a 2-stop race, or do you think 1-stop's still the way to go here?
We have chosen 2. I think 2 is going to be the way to do it. It's probably why I got pace at the moment. But yeah, no, we'll see how we go. I'm not bidding anytime soon. We filled it to the brim and we're going to go all the way. So hopefully we get a safety car mid-race. That will help us out massively. If that happens, then we might be able to flick strategy.
Hi, Bob Rock. Best of luck. You're certainly looking the goods, and good to see that Aston Martin up there with some good pace.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Brock Harvey
Just
there
while we're
from
on the
Incam. Yes, sorry, Bagsy.
Just while we're on a safety car, I'd like to say that my previous favourite livery was that of Matt Schwass. Just the very simple yellow and silver grey Ferrari there. But my new favourite is the new Foley livery, because it is that sort of a similar dark silver grey, but now with the white and teal, and it's definitely it does things for me. So
it definitely looks like a Ferrari racing car, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
Certainly
congratulations to whoever did that livery. I'm not sure who it was, but they've done quite well.
What about Matt Harvey repair and tune, Bags?
You're not in commentary.
It seems the radio channel's been left open to Brock Harvey somehow.
Yes, it certainly does. Well,
How does this happen?
let's see. Are there any takers on pit road? And at this stage, it looks like most of the field is electing not to stop. Tara
David Keane
leads
is
the
in.
that. So David Keane
Brendan Ross
stopping.
is in. Dwayne Davies is in again as well. Interestingly.
Well, that's all right for them because they were toward the back of the field anyway, and as you said before, Bagsy, it is a rather long lap. So these guys are going to go onto an alternate strategy with some tyres and some fuel and see what they can do. So, and actually, Keane's retired. Keane's retired, come into the pits and retired. So that's not, we weren't expecting that. So I'm not sure what's happened there, but you're right. Brendan Ross is in. David Keane's now retired. Dwayne Davies is missing a bonnet. So that's obviously as a result of that collision with the wall on the opening lap. But a good opportunity for those guys to get in, get some fresh rubber, go into an alternate strategy, and let's see if the strategy cards can play out for them. So Davies is away, and obviously goes up to 17th now.
I'm just trying to find out what's happened to David Keane.
It'll be interesting to see what's happened to David Keane. So Ross, Keane, and Davies, the only guys to stop on that safety car period, currently, and David Keane retired.
Saying David Keane is apparently having hardware issues with his computer. It's not dealing with the track very well apparently, so that appears to be why he's retired.
Well,
he may have run into someone potentially due to some stuttering issues.
Well, I think that's very, very sensible, and it's good to see that some of the drivers elect to use their sensibility. They don't want to ruin somebody else's race, especially battling in the packs. We've seen it a number of times. Some drivers have issues using headlights on circuits when it's a little bit dark with the frame rate issues, and rather than risk ruining not only their own race but somebody else's, they prefer to just call it a day and be an observer from the pit lane. And good on you, David Keane, for doing that.
It's just told me his frame rate was dropping to between 8 and 10, so...
Not ideal for racing.
Yeah, definitely the right call to fit the rest of this one out if that's the case.
Well, race leader, Greg Tara, he's led all the laps so far, despite having a bit of a challenge from Thomas and Wedding behind. And we expect that we're going to, we might get a safety car into the pits this time around, and then we can go racing again, but sometimes we have seen that it does more than just the 2 laps.
Going by what they're doing at the moment, I'd say we've got 1 more. Not a lot of people trying to warm their tyres at this stage, so it generally indicates that the lap under the safety car.
Well, let's see what happens as they come down towards the line. We've seen funnier things happen, but I suspect you're right. I suspect that we're going to end up with another lap under safety car, which will frustrate these guys. They want to go racing, and all the time that the safety car's on track, the clock is ticking down faster than what it does when they're going full throttle.
It'll frustrate some of these guys, but it will also make those who want to do a one-stop strategy rub their hands together in glee a little bit, as Aaron Thomas has picked this time round.
Well, that's
So
an
that's
interesting
very
manoeuvre.
interesting.
That's an interesting manoeuvre.
That may
Thinking
have
about strategy.
caught some of the people around him off guard a little bit because no one else really reacted. So he's going to be a long way. He's going to be a long way back in the field. He's going to be right at the back of the field, behind even Dwayne Davies.
Looks like Baker's gone in, and so has Schwartz.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can see Baker in there.
Yeah, so
Aaron Thomas, the first of the front runners to blink, so this will certainly be a two-stop strategy for him. He's filled it up. He's chucked in some new tyres, and he'll be scything his way through the field. But is it going to cost him too much time to Tara Wedding, Stairs, and Harvey, who are going to be absolutely at it at the front?
Well, the thing you pointed out too, Bagsy, a little bit earlier was that it is a very, very long lap here. Under safety car, they're doing laps in the 3-minute 18 bracket. So he's got plenty of time to catch the back of the pack, Aaron Thomas, and also he'll probably be putting the hammer down a little bit to catch up to the guys ahead, because that'll put some heat into those tyres, whereas the other guys are going to have to be working very, very hard to get their worn rubber up to temperature. The worn rubber will take the heat a little bit, or will heat up a little bit quicker, but also at the risk of burning through what has already seen a bit of wear from the initial sprint laps that we've done. I think Aaron Thomas,
before the end of he's going to catch him before the end of the first sector, so he's already they're in Dunlop. He's caught the back of the train.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a short stop too, because Baker and Schwartz have come out some considerable distance behind him, and they all sort of went in together. So that says to me that the guys ahead have now got to start thinking on strategy about what Aaron Thomas may or may not have done. He may have gone a short fill here, Aaron Thomas. So I kind of like that idea. If he has gone a short fill, he's only just topped up and then put on new tyres, so he may elect to go a little bit longer than some of these guys ahead, or maybe he may not have put any fuel in at all. Could have been a tyre-only stop and then continues to run the same strategy as everybody else. I mean, we've seen that Z4 is mega, mega quick, and he probably shouldn't have too much trouble passing some of these back markers. I guess, granted, Dwayne Davies probably won't make it very, very easy on him, but some of the less experienced guys that are in Pro-Am, he'll probably get past them very, very quickly.
I can confirm it was a fuel-only stop, no tyres.
No tyres.
So he's definitely, he was probably already on a two-stop strategy, and has just decided that he can fill up enough to get to his next stop, and then just go one more set of tyres, one more bit of fuel to the end.
Well, let's cycle through the field as we see a number of guys have already dropped down the order, and let's see who's made the biggest moves. Now, by virtue of all the stops, Aussie, you can see there in the Mercedes, has gone up 6 spots. He is, and then you've got Crackers moved up also to 9th by virtue of all the guys ahead pitting as well. Brenton Foley, he's up 6 spots, and the rest of the guys you can see have only moved up a couple. The only man who has not moved up or down at the moment is Greg Tara, and he leads the field, and we expect the safety car is going to come in this lap. And is it going to come in this lap? No, Stairs is in this lap. So the safety car doing another lap. This is a bit surprising. And Stairs is now thinking the same strategy that Aaron Thomas did, and he's coming in and topping off as well. Obviously in the Audi team, they've done the math, and they think that they can actually make it from here on one.
It's also got Boken as well.
It's the longest we've seen a safety car on track in any series that we run so far. What's going on there? Hopefully it's the last lap. It will be out there, and we'll be back to racing in no time.
12.5 second stop for Stairs there, and
Boke's in as well, guys. Boke's in as well.
Stairs has not changed tyres either. He's only done fuel.
Yeah. So Phil Boke was in as well, and was not that far behind Stairs, so he's doing
changed tyres.
He's changed tyres. He's doing much longer stops. So, to be honest with you, I'm not 100. Given that the safety car, you can catch the safety car quite quickly here on the lap speed that they're doing. I don't see the point in doing fuel only. You could have got away with changing tyres, unless they've got limited tyre sets. You could have got away with doing a tyre change and having the fuel on board as well. So
I don't think they'll be anywhere near the limit on tyres. So I definitely think that's just a lapse in judgment there. I would have changed tyres without question.
Yeah, because you can see here
they've only used about 8% of their tyres. So there's not really the need for it, I guess, especially if they know that they're gonna get to their next fuel stop It's just, I mean, I can see your point in not doing tyres, but it's also to make sure that people around them don't jump them. So, for example, Aaron Thomas has got 2 people he doesn't need to pass. Oh, Aaron Thomas is just running into the back of Dwayne Davies.
Yeah, Dwayne Davies I saw spin into the infield here, and oh, that's a disaster for those guys. And what on earth has happened there? We probably need to see if we can go back and have a little bit of a look at the replay, which we will bring up.
Dwayne Davies has lost his rear wing now, so that's going to be a pig to get round.
So here's Aaron Thomas.
That's so unexpected.
And I'm not 100. Yeah, oh, Dwayne Davies just stopped. I'm not sure if that's a little bit of a lag spike or something happening there, but something peculiar has definitely happened, and those guys have just come together.
Looks like Davies may have hit the Ferrari in front. I'm not sure who that is.
It looks like there was a bit of like people just checked up behind the safety car, and the concertina effect meant that
Aaron Thomas got a lot of damage here, guys. Aaron Thomas got a lot.
Not as much as Dwayne Davies. Dwayne Davies is currently going around without a rear wing, and he's just spun in sprint curve, going very slowly still. So that's very unfortunate for. Yeah, Dwayne Davies is almost certainly going to have to pit this lap. Stairs will be rubbing his hands in glee. He avoided that and has gained 2 positions from it, although he'll probably have to give the position back to Thomas.
We'll see what happens when with the safety car situation, because most of the guys, if they've crashed out, and fair enough, but sometimes they'll be instructed to follow the car ahead. Now, is the safety car going to go in this lap, or are we going to do another lap?
Lights are out.
The lights are out, so safety car will be in. So after 4 laps of safety car, we are going to get a resumption with 58, just under 59 minutes remaining. And your race leader's Greg Turra. And here he goes. Lewis Wedding's gone with him, though. In actual fact, the Lamborghini's got much more speed down the straight. And Brock Harvey trying to go with Wedding as well. And Wedding ran the outside, and he makes it stick. And that's a fantastic move. And he got that done very, very early, gents. And let's see what Wedding can do now that Lamborghini's got track position.
Aaron Thomas didn't pit and has gone very deep at spoon curve, so that's probably a mistake from him there. His car's very damaged and he should have pit there, despite obviously wanting to stay on the lead lap, so that's very unfortunate for him.
Well, Lewis Wedding has got half a second and stretching it out further now, and as he uses all the exit curb at Dunlop curb, and now on the run down, back down the hill towards Degner and then under the bridge. So Turra's lost out big time in that situation, probably a little bit sleepy, but Lewis Wedding's certainly awake and made it count down the main straight into turn 1. Oh, Heath Dixon just in the background. I'm not sure if that was he just took a bit too much curb or something, but that was a bit of a violent thing. We've got another safety car. So
there's been a spin down. Is it a safety car?
It's a full course caution and the pits are closed. So
Brendan Ross, Aussie, Matt Schwass all got tied up with each other from the looks of it.
That is the best bit of news Dwayne Davies could have hoped to get, as he's just leaving his pit box now.
Absolutely. Aaron Thomas is still having a lot of issues getting around the track. He's not even made up to this instant. He was having so many issues coming up through the S's. He really should have pit there. He's going to lose his position to Dwayne Davies now. Dwayne Davies probably isn't going to be too happy about having Aaron Thomas directly behind him again, but we'll see how it goes. One new wing for Dwayne Davies, and he does not lose a lap yet again.
Yeah.
This man... He's very lucky and unlucky today.
Yeah. Well, Aaron Thomas, we're just looking on screen here. Every time he hits the brakes in that car, there is smoke pouring out of that right-hand side of the car. And you can see there, it's actually the left-hand front. Actually, it's completely locking everything up. I think Thomas is probably going to retire here, and he's off the circuit. And I think that that's him done. So Dwayne Davies will inherit 16th place by virtue of managing to somehow avoid taking too much damage. That car is beaten and broken and scarred, but it's still going, and he will get, by the time he gets to the hairpin, he will move up to 16th place by virtue of the fact that Aaron Thomas is retired. Well,
just the incident that triggered that safety car was between Brendan Ross and Aussie. Brendan Ross had what can only be described as an ambitious manoeuvre into Degner 2, and has created quite the dent in the side of Aussie's car, sent Aussie just flying straight off into the outside barrier at Degner 2 as well. So that might be looked at after, but that's what triggered that safety car.
Well, it was an opportunistic move on the resumption of race proceedings from Lewis Wedding, and he now finds himself ahead of the pole sitter Greg Turra with 55 and nearly 30 and 55 minutes and 40 seconds to go, if I can get my words together, in this race. And we'll probably expect we're going to get another 3 or 4 laps under the safety car. Pits will be open this time around. It'll be interesting to see what everybody does, given the fact that the likes of Stairs and co have been in and stopped, and probably looking to stretch it on one lap, or sorry, on a one-stop race, I should say. We'll see what happens as a result. Now, Dwayne Davies, sorry, go on.
Unless there's a lot of safety car interventions, I don't think any of that you can one-stop from here. You'd be quite borderline, I feel, and you'd be relying on more safety cars. But the person who's benefited most from all this is Stairs, because on that restart he made up 4 positions, and so he's now sitting quite well in 11th. He's got less people to pass now, which is the biggest thing.
Yeah, Philip Boak made up some spots as well. He came in at the same point in time that Stairs did. They were line astern on track when they came out for the safety car resumption. But they have gained, as you said, Stairs has gained 4 positions, but only that, Philip Boak's gone with him as well. So a good result for those guys after the stop to make up so many places so quickly, even for the half a lap of racing that we got in. That's an astounding bit of driving.
Just looking at Dwayne Davies, he was such a long way behind that he's only coming through the Degmas now as the field is coming up towards 130 behind the safety car. So I've got the feeling even if plenty of people pit here, he might end up behind them all, which is very unfortunate for him.
Yeah, he'll certainly end up behind them.
He is on fresh tyres though, and a fresh rear wing, and a fresh front splitter as well. So fresh everything on Dwayne Davies' car.
Well, let's see who opts to go in and who opts to play a little bit of possum. We've seen some of the drivers play a bit of possum before with regards to pitting, and Wedding stays out, and Harvey plays a bit of possum, tries to fox them behind, and let's see if anybody else opts to pit in. No, most of the fielders we cycle through, no takers.
Very interesting, this.
So a little bit of cat and mouse going on, a little bit of mind games, just to see it happen.
If I was one of the people nearer to the back, I might that was one of the lower down runners, I would consider pitting there just to get some fresher rubber and fuel.
Yeah, Philip Boak off the circuit there. What's going on there? He's taken out one of the marker boards. I'm not sure if he was not paying attention there or something being a bit funny, but taking out one of the marker boards, I'm sure that won't go down very well with all the guys there.
Oh dear, he came perilously close to the back of Stairs' car. Stairs was braking as Boak was accelerating and warming his tyres, and there was mere millimetres between them. That was almost a repeat of Dwayne Davies and Aaron Thomas. Might need some talking to some of the people, some of the drivers about etiquette behind the safety car, etiquette in the back. But you're not meant to run into the back of other people. Certainly
not. And Dwayne Davies is coming through the S's as well now, so he's going to catch the back of this train. So by virtue of the fact that nobody else has pitted, he's gotten onto the back of this train. But depending on what happens with the safety car, if it does another lap, we may still see a few takers on this lap, especially what you're saying, Bagsy, before. If you're towards the back, I mean, it's essentially a free kick. You can come in, you can stop, you can change tyres, you can top off with fuel, and you can still catch the back of the pack before the safety car goes in again. I couldn't quite understand why some of the guys that came in on the last round didn't change tyres. I mean, you said they only used up a very, very small percentage of their tyres, and they're not limited for tyre sets. They're certainly not going to go through all of them before the race is over. But why not have a free kick and have that extra little bit of fresh grip? I mean, it's still going to give you a little bit of an advantage in some of the corners, depending on where your car is stronger. But towards the back, these guys probably should come in, top off, new set of tyres, and then force the strategy hand of the guys ahead of them, depending on what happens when the safety car goes back in.
It was all about track position for the front runners, at least. They wanted to be able to make sure they weren't going to get caught out in the back markers who are also pitting. And it means, once again, less people overtake, which is more time saved. You know, catching people is easy, overtaking them is a lot harder.
Certainly.
Matt, did you happen to get to find out what the average sort of, if a two-stopper or if a one-stopper is even possible?
Didn't do enough laps in these cars to be able to tell you this time, I'm sorry.
We did see that Lewis Wedding was doing a little bit of long distance running during the practice session. We actually thought that he might have been practicing making lap time while fuel saving. I mean, he was doing lap times with the 201s and 202s, but we've seen him you know, use his
If
nous
there's
very,
anyone
very
that-
wisely.
If there's anyone that can do the race on a one-stopper, it will be Lewis.
We've seen him do it a couple times already.
Adelaide was a remarkable performance from him when we had Corey Ott stop on literally on the line, which. But
Foley is
yeah,
pit this time
otherwise-
round.
So Brendan Foley has pit, so he's pit out of 6th place, and that'll be interesting to see
And
what
Ross
happens
is
there.
not. Ross faked it, but did not.
Yep, so you can see there, Foley's falling through the order, and that's interesting because he was up in 6th place, and we didn't kind of expect that anybody in that sort of top half of the field would come in for a stop, but some of those guys at the back we expected to be in, and they didn't bite. So maybe
We're probably getting into the realm now where you could make it to the end potentially. It would be difficult, but we're actually getting close to the halfway. We're 10 minutes off the halfway point in this race, and this safety car lap will be, another 3 minutes. So it takes us down to 46 minutes. You could potentially, with another safety car intervention, get through on that one stop. So
you are on the throttle a lot throughout the lap on this track in particular, though. So it may still be a bit touch and go on whether or not it would be possible in another, say, in 10 minutes' time, then you'd be a lot closer to being able to. But I'd say it's a bit 50-50 at this stage.
we'll see if it works out for him. It'll be a master stroke for Foley, and it will gain him a bunch of time in comparison to the other people. Although you'd think that everyone in front is probably only going to be stopping one time now, potentially. Depends on how. We don't know what these cars are like with their fuel at the moment. So,
well, considering, gentlemen, that we've had, what is it now? We've had 4 laps originally on the first safety car period. This is the 3rd lap, and we're not sure if we'll get a 4th, but we'll soon find out. The lap times that they're doing are about 1 minute and 15 seconds slower than what they would do in proper race trim. So if you extrapolate that out, there's probably about a half a dozen laps that we can knock off this race, and we expected we were going to get 40 laps or thereabouts if the race went full green. Now, getting about half a dozen laps knocked off, and by the time they all do their stop, we're probably going to get somewhere in maybe about the 33 to 35 laps if it stays green. Do you think that these guys have got the better part of 20 odd laps that they can do on a full tank of fuel? Can these guys that have stopped, or the likes of Brenton Foley who have stopped, make 20 to 22 laps on a tank?
I think it's going to be, as I said, it'll be pretty touch and go. I think it might just be possible, but whether or not that's going to be faster is an entirely different question.
we can give you a very definitive maybe.
Well, that's
Absolutely, without doubt, maybe.
Well, that's all we can hope for, and we know that the likes of Lewis Wedding, who are heading this field at the moment, are some of the masters of fuel saving. He managed to make it work in his favour in Adelaide by stopping when he needed to stop and applying the pressure when he needed to, and it turned into a race victory for him. In actual fact, it was the one of 2 consecutive race victories, shooting for 3 in a row. Let's see if safety car is in. Safety car is in, so we will get a resumption in racing in a minute. Now, Tara's right under the rear wing of that Lamborghini. He doesn't want it to get away this time. He's probably going to try and stem it up. Brock Harvey's trying as well. Green flag in the air. We're racing again. We commence lap number 13. Look at this. We've got 3 wide. It's going to be 3 wide down the front straight if we're not careful. Tara's going to have to defend from Harvey, and you can't attack Lewis Wedding now because Brock Harvey was there waiting to pounce if he made one little mistake. Wedding's got the jump, but let's have a look back at this battle here. We've got Harvey chasing Tara, and then the train behind. Rob Dunt's moved up to 4th. He's made a move, I believe, on Heath Dixon since the restart, so that's great news for him and for his strategy. Heath is now going to have to defend from Cracker. That Nissan has moved up a ton of positions, some of them by virtue of the stops ahead, but Cracker's making good track time with that Nissan GTR. He's up 10 positions, even though he's now under threat from Luke, and Luke's going to get underneath him here, but and then Cracker surrenders position at Degner 1, and Stairs he's being boxed in here with Philip Oak on the inside, but Stairs will be looking to make a position up on Cracker as soon as possible. And Boak in the background there defending from the other Audi. Oh, and that's Luke spins at the hairpin. And Stairs spins as well. He has a half spin, but he didn't lose any positions out of that, but something happened. and the bit of dust ahead as well. I think there might have been Cracker going through the dirt, but Boker's now defending from Baker. It's all kicked off on the restart here, and I'm not sure what happened to Luke, guys, but he just must have just dropped it on the braking into the hairpin.
We've got Brock Harvey, who's also been having to defend very aggressively from Dunt for third place at the moment. These two are having a great race.
Well, let's take a look at that battle, because you can see in the foreground there, Tara's monstering the back of the Lamborghini, and Dunt is monstering the back of the Aston Martin as they scream through 130R. And is it Tara ahead? Tara's making a move on Wedding. We just cut to it, and it gives himself some room. But Tara wasn't far enough alongside, but he's pushing the envelope as much as possible. And let's follow through. Harvey's still defending from that Ferrari. Tara is still attacking the Lamborghini. Tara going for the outside. Lewis Wedding stays defensive on the inside on the run to turns 1 and 2. And Wedding will retain the position. Just
Dunt got through Harvey.
And Dunt through Harvey, and we can see that's confirmed in the background. Tara couldn't get the job done on the run to turn 1, but Harvey has lost position to Ferrari. Heath Dixon is now monstering the back of the Aston Martin as he's now gotten past Cracker, who in turn is just trying to get a bit further up the field. He's made a great start on the safety car, resumption from the safety car. Harvey now dropping back from this Ferrari. And Dixon is defending like crazy from that Nissan. That Nissan's very, very close to that Bentley Continental there. Will he think about sending one? No, he thinks better of it and backs out of it. And Stairs is recovering in 7th place after that little half spin at the hairpin on the previous lap.
Just having a look at that incident with Stairs, he actually got a punch from behind from Boak. And so Boak obviously just like, you know, he slowed down as Boak actually has got Baker on the inside at the hairpin. He slowed down to let Stairs retain position. That caused everyone behind to check up, which caused all sorts of drama once they got down to Spoon Curve.
Well, gents, the man on the move at the moment is Rob Dunt in the Ferrari. He's up 5 positions, and the timing screens indicate that he's had one hell of a first sector, so he's pushing to try and rejoin, or to join the battle as Cracker goes wide across the second part of Spoon. Stairs should get him down the straight there, and he does. The timing screen updates it. You can see there in the foreground, it's Wedding and Tara take 2 through 130R. Tara just not close enough to have another stab at the Lamborghini here into the Casio Triangle chicane. But you'd be lying a mistake on Tara. Makes a mistake, actually. Got a little bit slidey. And now has lost position on the Lamborghini. But Rob Dunt, I'm looking at him lighting up the timing screen. Let's see what happens when he gets to the start-finish line, because he certainly was looking the goods. And my suspicions are confirmed. Fastest lap, a 59.7. He's a 10th faster than Wedding on that lap. That's a very, very good lap for Rob Dunn. He's got his tail up here as he chases down Greg Tara.
4 different manufacturers in the top 4 here. This is an amazing race we've had so far, despite the safety car intervention, and hopefully it continues.
We certainly spiced up the action, and the strategy card will soon start to unfold as we see what sort of pace these guys have got out in front and how far they can go on their tank. Now Tara's just lost a little bit of ground here to the Lamborghini. He's lost about a second, and Dunt is closing in fast. He's only a half a second difference, and he's all over the back of that Mercedes now, locking up the brakes through Degner, locking up the brakes through a few turns. Harvey's lost touch with Dunt now. Stairs has gotten past Cracker, and he's trying to hunt down Dixon in the Bentley Continental, but Dunt is driving this Ferrari extremely well and just trying to stay with Greg, but Greg's got the legs on the straight because of the virtue of that Mercedes power, but Dunt makes it all up through the first part of the lap where it's all corners.
Sorry to butt in. We've got I should have had a look through the order a bit longer before I came into the last thing I said. We've got the top 8 positions, all different manufacturers.
Well, makes it for interesting racing when we've got so many different manufacturers in the GT class. And mind you, there's not the majority of the field is occupied by the Ferrari 488 and the Mercedes AMG. There's 4 of each of those cars. So they're not quite those cars aren't quite dominating the standings, but to have 8 manufacturers in the top 8 is a very, very good return for GT racing.
It could be 9 different manufacturers in the top 9, but we don't have any Porsche drivers out there today.
No,
it's a terrible car.
No, Johnny Kirkham's the only one who drives the Porsche, and he's absent from tonight's proceedings.
Andy was driving it in France last time around as well.
And he's also missing from this particular race. So here's Brock Harvey. He's up 2 positions from
Heath
him.
Dixon has pit from 5th place.
Well, strategy
So
now
green
starting
flags.
to unfold.
Green flag stop from Heath. You makes you wonder why he didn't just pit under the safety car, because he wouldn't have used that much more fuel, unless this is the critical lap where he can make it to the end. But I doubt that. It just seems odd. You think he'd either wait several more laps, or he must have been critical on fuel to have done it.
Well, they'd be wanting
I'd say
to.
that's what he's trying to do. I'd say he wants to one stop it here, otherwise he would almost certainly have had to have come in during the safety car laps.
Yeah, well, you want to sort of bank on doing it on a green flag, and then have the safety car come out and close the pits. Therefore, you can close up to the back of the field, and then by virtue, everybody else will have to go in if they're close enough to their stop. As we watch Harvey negotiating the hairpin here. And he's slowly losing touch. He's gaining position or time over Stairs behind at the moment through some sections of the track, but Stairs making it up through other sections. But he's lost touch with Rob Dunt, who's still trying to close in on the back of Greg Turra. But unfortunately for him, he just can't now bridge that one and a bit second gap that Turra's that's maintaining. Lewis Wedding on top of that doing his best to check out, but he's only got about 1.2 seconds on Turra. So it's all very, very even Stevens out in front here. Oh, Rob Dunt just kicks up a little bit of dirt. Lucky not to drop it in any more on the grass, or he might have been around there at 130R.
Yeah, all of them have been flirting with danger at 130R, just trying to get as wide a run as possible into the corner. It saves you. You can carry so much more speed if you do it, but if you go too far, you're just going straight to the barriers on the outside of 130R. And there's as Wedding goes fastest, he wasn't happy with Dunt having the fastest lap time, and he's set down his marker of a 1:59.5.
Yeah, certainly very, very quick lap.
We've got the Audi of Matt Webb, I believe. Yeah, Matt Webb has just gone through on Philip Boak after Boak ran a little bit wide on the way into the Casio chicane.
We also had at the hairpin last lap an incident between Boak, Baker and Foley. They sort of checked up, and Foley got sandwiched between the two and ran off into the dirt, so he lost a couple of positions there.
Well, one car I want to draw your attention to here, gentlemen, is Baker. So we believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but he did stop under one of the safety cars, didn't he?
He did, yes.
All right, so the number 49 Mercedes-Benz has now moved up into 7th place by virtue of a couple of cars falling off the road. He's currently trying to hunt down Matt Schwass in the Ferrari, and Mr. Consistency, as we like to call him, at the top of the standings at the moment. And we suspect that he's going to have to stop again. I think he was on the first round of safety car pit stops, if memory serves me correctly.
He was.
So we expect that he will have to stop again. So he'll probably be hoping for either these guys ahead of him to stop under the green flag and then stop again after them, or he's going to rely on a safety car to close the gap back up and come in when the rest of them do. It'll be interesting to see how he goes.
For Baker to maintain roughly this position he's in at the moment, he does need another safety car, I think.
Yeah, he's already.
It's interesting if there's another safety car intervention, or even if there's no safety car interventions, and they think they can make it to the end, then if Baker can make it to the end somehow, I doubt it, but if he can, he and Stairs are in the box positions, especially Stairs, because Stairs pit on the second safety car period. Now he's still in 5th. He's gained all those positions that he lost back, because that's where he was when he pit. So, he's Stairs.
Have a look at that on the screens, gentlemen. Turra has set a 59.1, and he's honing in on the back of Wedding as fast as he can, but that's an astonishingly quick lap. A 1:59.1 in race trim. To give you an idea, Baker's last lap was a 2:01.1, and that's actually his best lap on lap number 17 there. But the man on the move, and he's doing his best to bridge that gap. And Greg Turra, that Mercedes power down the straights, very, very important. You can see here, Wedding ekes it out through the S-curves, and Sector 1 is where the Lamborghini is strong. Sectors 2 and 3 is where the Mercedes starts, the power starts to claw some of it back, and then down the main straight.
It looks like Tracker is trying to make his way back up through the field. He's just held off Dwayne Davies and then past Brendan Ross, and is now trying to chase down Brendan Foley.
Did he pit?
Foley was
Cracker?
Foley was one of the ones that stopped. I haven't seen Cracker in the pits yet, but Foley definitely stopped on that last safety car. So we suspect he's one of the first runners that can get home from here.
I think Cracker stopped.
He
I,
didn't stop on a safety car, but has he stopped? Do you have a green flag stop like Keithy did?
I think he did, yeah, because he was
Or
up
did he
in,
have a-
I think he was up in 6th place earlier, so he had to have stopped because he's down in 11th now.
I think he might have made a mistake because he's still a fair way ahead of Heath Dixon, who made a green flag stop. And he's a minute from the leader, so I think Cracker may have had a mistake somewhere that we have not spotted because, yeah, Heath Dixon is a minute down the leaders and he was only about, 5 seconds behind when he made his stop. So I feel Cracker may have had a mistake somewhere.
well, we're 18 laps completed and we have 35 minutes remaining in this race. It's flown by. Mind you, we have had a lot of slow running behind the safety car as Tara sets a 59.5 that lap around, so he's pushing as hard as he can. Wedding actually set a 59.3 on that last lap, so they're trading fast times. Tara's out in the marbles. That's going to cost him a little bit of time, and it certainly does. You can see it shot up there to about 1.3 seconds, the gap, and this section is where the Lamborghini manages to get away. And looking back through the field, we haven't got very many close battles back on track. The real only battle that I can see is the likes of Webb and Boak, who are duking it out down there for 8th and 9th. And then Davies
is right on the back.
Yeah, and then you've got Cracker and Davies and Ross are all starting to converge as well. And Heath Dixon is doing his best to make up time, but he's had a green flag stop. And Brendan Foley in 10th, as we said before, first of the runners that we believe can possibly get home. It might require a little bit of divine intervention from the safety car, but we will see as Tara goes a little bit deep at the hairpin. Let's have a look down the field and we'll see who we can pick up some of the battles that are going on. So here's that battle we were talking about before, Webb and Boak, and Webb's just managed to sneak away a little bit.
Wedding is just completely unable to break Tara at the moment. He's got that second for 1.1, 1.2 second lead, but it is not going out or coming down any further. So this will be interesting in the closing stages of the race.
Do you think he might be pacing him, or do you think it's actually genuinely Tara has the pace to keep up with him?
I think the Mercedes has the pace over the Lamborghini, and I think Wedding has the pace over Tara. So I reckon we are seeing these two genuinely racing each other right now.
Well, here's Bagsy's new favourite livery on screen. He spoke about it before, the Brenton Foley BF Race Engineering Ferrari, and I must say, it does look absolutely stunning. Those yellow headlights are sort of a reminiscent of the...
We've got Rob Dunt and Harvey in the pits. Sorry to cut across you there.
Well, let's cut to that because here they are. They're line astern going in. They were line astern on track, and this is the point in time of the race where the strategy all now starts to play out. We'll soon see how good Heath Dixon has been on the laps that he's completed because he could potentially jump these guys. There goes Baker. Baker goes up to 5th by virtue of these guys stopping. He's still hunting down Matt Schwass. Webb, Boak, Foley's moving through. Let's see where Heath Dixon comes out. So let's see if we can join Heath Dixon. Here he is. He's still coming up the back straight towards 130R. So he's quite some distance off the pace, but let's have a look. So Harvey's still in the pits. Cracker's now in the pits. Dunt's in the pits as well. So they're all stopped here. But this is the man we want to take a look at because he was the man that's kicked. This is the man that's kicked off the round of green flag stops, and he's got a little bit messy through the final chicane there. So he's now coming round the final turn, down to the line.
Harvey's moving,
and Harvey's on the move. Dixon
he's
has
gone
passed
Dunt.
all of them. So Heath Dixon's laps were good enough to get him out ahead of Harvey, Dunt, and Cracker. So some good laps from Heath Dixon moves him up the positions into 12th. Brendan Foley, by virtue of the fact that he has stopped on the last safety car period, has moved up to 8th place. He's gone six positions up since the drop of the green flag, and he's tucked up in here behind this battle between Boak and Webb. In actual fact, Webb has gone very, very wide and actually kicked up a bunch of dirt. Foley won't want to waste too much time behind these guys because time is key, and he can make something happen here if he can get past these guys very quickly. In actual fact, Boak's gone very, very wide, and Foley's going to get underneath him here, and Boak gives him the room, and they both need to take the wide line, but let's just stay with this battle for a minute. Dwayne Davies is trying to keep pace with Foley as well, so the recovering McLaren But Foley's just losing a little bit of time behind the BMW here.
Tara in the pits.
Well, the undercut, they might be going for the undercut here. Tara, he's seen how it's worked for Heath Dixon, and they might be trying the undercut. So Stairs couldn't make it on one stop, so that's an interesting move. That's an interesting move. He couldn't go with those guys or gain position, so he's also come in. So Foley's now going to go through. So this is a wonderful sort of strategy battle that we're seeing here. Can Foley actually make it to the finish? We've got just over 30 minutes to go. We've done 20 laps. We suspect we're probably going to get another 14 or 15 laps in. Oh, as they all go wide. Boak went wide, Foley went even wider at turns 1 and 2. They didn't lose any positions, and Dwayne Davies didn't manage to capitalise on that, but certainly you don't expect guys to be going wide. They haven't seen very many guys go wide at turn 1 all night.
Stairs and Tara both out. Stairs had a slightly shorter stop than Tara. 44 seconds stop time for Tara, and total pit lane transition time is about 1 minute or thereabouts. So about 1 minute is probably, you'd say, the critical number for as Heath Dixon gets past Tara and Stairs.
Well,
so Heath Dixon may have
Aussie has come into the pits after them.
Well, that's
Heath
certainly
Dixon may
interesting.
have made a strategy masterstroke here if he can make it to the end. Although I feel he wasn't stopped for as long as the others around him, so I'm not sure if he's going to make it to the end or not. We shall see. He has a penchant for underfueling at times, does Mr. Dixon, so we'll see how he goes.
Well, he might be relying on a safety car, I think, Heath Dixon. But the man I've got wondering how he's going to be going here is Lewis Wedding. So he's got a 20-second gap over Matt Schwass, but he really needs to be pumping in the lap times here, Lewis Wedding, to avoid the undercut, because Tara was right under the rear wing, and Wedding is in. So Wedding not wasting any time whatsoever. He attacks the pit lane vigorously, gets on the brakes and on the pit lane speed limiter, and this is critical. We'll see how this goes.
He was 1 minute and 5 ahead of Heath Dixon when this all started. So that's the key person you want to look at here.
And Matt Schwass
right behind Dixon as well.
And Matt Schwass going through. He'll take over the lead of this race, albeit temporarily. We haven't seen him stop yet. So
Baker's pit.
Baker comes in. So Baker couldn't go either. Baker was on the first lot of safety car stops, so he might need to stop for as long though. So this will be interesting to see how things go for the number 49 Mercedes. Matt Webb going through into second place from Philip Boak. Brenton Foley now up into fourth, and Dwayne Davies has managed to recover to fifth after all that calamity that happened to him. Baker's in the pits and still in sixth. Brendan Ross is now in. Wedding's on the move, and let's see where he comes out. And he passes Baker. So where is Wedding going to come out?
Tara is coming around the last corner right behind Dixon.
There he is. And Wedding manages to get out, so he avoids the undercut. Heath Dixon can't capitalise on Lewis Wedding, so Wedding must have had a sensational in-lap, or he didn't have to put in as much fuel.
He had the same pit lane transition time as Tara did, and the same stopped time as well. So I think it was just good laps before and after. Better in lap, than Tara's in and out lap.
And everyone in the top 5 at the moment, except for maybe Foley, will have to pit again.
Surely Foley will have to pit again unless he gets extremely lucky. Because the problem is the safety car intervention means that he's going to have the gap that he has to Wedding is going to close up. The gap is as he goes in taps Matt Webb slightly. He's got 27 seconds on Wedding at the moment, and there's 27 minutes remaining. So if he can go to the end and there's no safety car intervention, he just has to maintain a second a lap better than Wedding. But I think his current pace is about 2 seconds lap slower than Wedding. So
Tara's had a bit of a lose at the hairpin there. He just got on the curb and on the power a little bit too soon, and that's cost him a bit of time to Heath Dixon. So let's go along and let's see if we can take a look at the replay of what happened there. So you can see
going around there,
I certainly did as well. So let's have a look. So you can see he was right under the rear wing of Heath Dixon as he comes up to the thing. Heath just locked his brake a little bit, and Tara just took just got on the power a little bit too soon, just got a little bit too squirrely, and that's all it was to cost him, probably close to a second in terms of time. So not an ideal situation, but you can see here he's actually gathered it back up, or gained most of it back up. And Stairs has closed in as well. Stairs has actually found a half a second on this lap, even though Tara lost time on Heath Dixon. Stairs is closing rapidly on this pair.
The lucky thing for Tara in that was Dixon had gone very defensive on the way into the hairpin, so he lost himself a little bit of time for Tara.
Yep. Matt Webb in the pits by the look of
almost
things
is.
too, guys. So Matt Webb in the pits, so these guys all gain one position as they pass the Audi in the pit lane.
Been a good drive for Webb on debut with the series.
They're very clean, and we like to see clean racing on debut. We seem to have one or two people debuting
Brent
every week in
Foley's
this series.
about to have a go at Dwayne Davies for 3rd place at the moment. He's right behind him coming into the hairpin.
Well, that's interesting because Davies was behind Foley and has managed to get past him. So somewhere on track, there's been an exchange of positions between Foley and Davies, and well, Davies is going to have, we suspect he's going to have to stop again.
Rob Dunt is out of the race. He's had a connection issue and is out of the race.
So
That's such a shame for Rob Dunn.
Dunt's been driving extremely well in all the series that he's been competing, and he's moved up to Pro B, I believe, in the Super Series quite quickly. And
Yes, Dunt and Foley and both were moved up in Super Series and Supercars, but Boak and Foley wanted to stay down in Supercars and fight for that championship. So there's they've moved up in just those two have moved up in just the
Foley
series.
locks up going into the chicane there. You can see by the timing screens, Foley's got 24.5 seconds on Wedding, and we've got 24.5 minutes to go. So he's looking good, Foley, if he can keep up his pace. Let's have a look at what sort of lap times he's doing. And you can see here he crosses the line. That last lap was a 2:01.8. His best is a 2:08. And if we have
Tara's just gone past Dixon. Sorry to cut across you there. He's just gone past Dixon up the back straight into 130R.
So makes the move, and needed to make that move because he needs to hone in on Wedding very, very quickly. So Tara moves up to 6th. Dixon down to 7th, so Dixon's still, I think that, yes, it is. Dixon is 7th is where he started, so by virtue of the fact that he's still got a couple of guys ahead that we need to stop. We know that Schwass and Boak definitely have to stop again. Davies, we suspect, is going to have to stop again, so there's still another 3 positions to be gained, so that'd be a 4th place for Dixon, and that would be a good return for an alternate strategy call, pitting under green.
Wedding was only 2/10 faster than Boak that lap, so that's he's not got the pace he had in the first run.
Well, here he is on screen, currently 5th. I'm just going to take a look at the timing screens, gents, and have a look at some of the times that Brenton Foley has been doing, if I can get them to come up. I'll be very curious to see how his consistency is like. If we have a look on the timing screens, his current lap that he's on is on sort of on pace, but the last few laps that he's done have been 2:01, 2:02, so he's not quite got, and he actually got a track violation, I think, on one of the other laps as well. So just by virtue of the fact he's not all that he's a little bit inconsistent, it could play back into Lewis Wedding's hands. But that being said, as you said before, Bagsy, Lewis Wedding wasn't all that much faster on the lap around, although his last lap was a 2:06, and his outlap from the pits was a 2:05. So he needs to. He can't afford to rest on his laurels here, Lewis Wedding. He's got to make him. He's got to get the job done. He's got to put the hammer down, and he's got to start hoeing into that margin very, very quickly. Otherwise, time's going to run out.
Davies is pit from 3rd place.
Well,
as is Boak from 2nd and Schwass from 1st.
Yep.
So they all couldn't make it. They're all getting service. They might come out right in the battle with Dixon and Tara, potentially, because they won't have to put as much fuel in. I doubt it, but there's a potential there. But yeah, now Brenton Foley is 1st, and soon Wedding will come through to claim 2nd, and there will be, as Wedding crosses the line, 20 seconds.
well, he sets his best lap then too, Lewis Wedding.
22 minutes remaining.
He sets his best lap of a 59.2, and that's more like the lap times we need to start seeing from Lewis Wedding. He's got no time to waste. He needs to hoe into that gap very, very quickly, and Brenton Foley will need to be aware that he just needs to be very nice and smooth and consistent, and just try and not lose too much time. That Ferrari is very, very good, but this Lamborghini is mega.
It'll be also, this is all presuming that Boak doesn't need to come in again. He might have to come in again, in which case this is an academic discussion.
You're talking about
But
Foley
we're
here,
going
not
to-
Foley here, not Boak.
Sorry, Foley, not Boak, my apologies.
I
But
just
we hope,
got them confused myself.
but we hope that he doesn't, because it makes for a much more exciting race.
It
And
certainly
we're going
does.
to commentate as if that's what's going to happen, because that's what we want. Just a quick update. Matt Schwass, who was in the lead before he finally took his pit stop, has come out in 6th, approximately 3 seconds behind Brock Harvey on fresher tyres. So
3 seconds out of Baker as well. So he's
Baker is, as it's all shook out. Boak has come out in 9th, and Dwayne Davies has come out in 11th. So I believe that's all the pit stops shaken out. In the end, Heath Dixon's early pit has not paid off. He's down in 13th.
I was going to say, what happened to Heath? Because he was right up there behind Greg Tara, and has he come in again?
He may have.
He must have. He was just...
Yeah,
right
2 minute 50 lap time on the last time around. He's come into the pits again, so obviously not being able to make it to the flag. Maybe the old underfueling thing that you spoke about, Bagsy, has reared its head again as Foley comes down to the line to set... what time is this a lap time around? So that was a 2 minute 2 from Foley. So he's consistently... He's done 2 minute 2s the last couple of laps, but that's not going to keep him ahead of Wedding for much longer as he skates across the curb on turn 1. And as we look to Lewis Wedding, who's coming down to the line, you can see he's sliced 3 seconds off, almost 3 seconds off that advantage, and he does another 59. 59.2 last time around, 59.3 this time around. That gap is being eroded away rather quickly.
He's like a metronome at the moment. He's just ticking away. Boak is less even, shall we say. Sorry, Foley is less even. I've mixed them up yet again.
Tara in 3rd place has just done a 59.5, so he's still got the pace up. Looks like he's either got into a bit of traffic, came out of the pits, or his stop just took a little bit longer than he would have liked to.
There is a little bit of lap traffic ahead for Lewis Wedding as well, so I'm wondering whether or not part of that lap that Foley...
deep at the hairpin. He's almost gone off the track, so that's going to be more time lost.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether or not that... I'm wondering whether or not that lap traffic had something to do with Foley's 2:02 on the previous lap, because Lewis Wedding's approaching a Mercedes, which I believe it may be Luke or it may be one of the... actually, it may be Aussie, I think. That he's coming... Yeah, it is Aussie he's coming up to at the moment, because Foley's already put Aussie a lap down. Whether or not this affects Lewis Wedding at the wrong place at the wrong time remains to be seen. But we know that he's very, very good when the chips are down and he needs to make lap time. And he's certainly looking like he's making lap time at the minute. He's actually the fastest car on track through the first sector. And we'll remain to see what it looks like through the rest of the sector. But then again, we're looking through the field, and not only that, but Brock Harvey and Matt Schwasser are also setting excellent times through the first sector as well.
I was just going to say, Brock Harvey is just chiseling away at the gap to Stairs in front of him. That seems to have evened out at the moment, but it has been coming down by a tenth or two every lap for the last couple of laps.
Foley with a 2:03.2 that time around, gentlemen, and Lewis Wedding has eaten almost another 3 seconds off that advantage, so we expect that this lap time is probably going to be another 59 or a 2 flat as he comes to the line, and it's a 2 flat, a 2 minute flat .3, so still continuing to slice seconds a lap off that lead, and he's a little bit wide there, so that'll give Foley a bit of time back.
Tara, again, he has closed the gap by another couple tenths to Lewis. He's done a 59 on the previous lap.
And Stairs as well is doing his best to hang on to Tara. So Tara's got 5 seconds on Stairs and he's got 6 seconds behind Wedding. So this could converge rather nicely. And as much as I hate to say this, if a safety car was called now, it would make for a very, very interesting run to the finish.
Tara just catching a bit of traffic.
Yeah, he's catching Aussie, so that's the car that Lewis Wedding just went past not that long ago, and he's got the lights on to warn him that he's a faster car, and well done by Aussie getting out of the way very, very nicely. Tara hardly lost any time.
It's going to be interesting to see, because at the current rate, it's going to be about 7 to 5 minutes left when Wedding catches Foley, and Foley's going to have a battle on his hand. We may just see Foley decide that just letting Wedding through is the better option, so he loses as little time as possible and tries to stay on that podium.
Yeah. Brendan Ross just receiving a penalty there, so that would probably be for a drive-through. I think Brendan Ross, it looks like he may have just left the pits, so a late stop there, and as a result, pit lane speeding penalty. The guys have been rather good with the pit lane speeding infringements in the last couple of rounds. We haven't seen too many of them. We saw a few in the last GT3 round, but overall in the series, the rate of pit lane speeding penalties seems to have declined a lot, so well done, guys.
It wasn't a pit lane speeding penalty. I
no?
believe it may be track cuts, because he did take a interesting line, to say the least, through the first corner. So I believe track cuts was that.
I believe track cuts is a stop-go penalty.
Yeah, track cuts, I think you're right. It potentially is a stop-go under the GT3, so we'll remain to be seen. We'll see what happens, how it all shakes out. Now, Tara's reporting second.
Tara.
What's happened here? Has no, Foley's gone in. Foley's in.
Not only that, but Tara has just done a 59.2 and is within 5.5 seconds.
And Harvey and Stairs have passed the lap traffic down the pit lane, so they didn't lose any time either. So that's a real shame. Brenton Foley couldn't make it to the flag. We suspected he was one of the only men that could do it, but couldn't quite get there. Falls about 15.5 minutes short, and we could have been robbed of what might have been a grandstand finish. But
He's coming out in 7th.
Coming out in 7th, and he's copped a pit lane drive-through penalty as well. So that's a real shame. That just compounds his dilemmas. He's going to come back in, do a drive-through. When he does his drive-through, he's going to drop all the way down to 11th, if not potentially to 12th place.
He was looking like he would have definitely made up at least 2 or 3 positions after the stop without the drive-through, but that's obviously not going to happen now.
No.
Just interestingly, because Ross is serving his drive-through now, he didn't go through the pits when he got that penalty, so apart from a track cut, I'm not sure what he could have gotten there.
Something rather strange then. Well, remains to be seen. We'll have a look at that after the race. But this is the battle on track that we're interested in. It's Greg Turra and Lewis Wedding. Now, Turra's got to find a way to make up 5 seconds. Now,
that gap's coming down.
It's coming down slowly. It's not coming down in leaps and bounds. The last lap...
Half a second a lap, though, Heather. I reckon he's got plenty of time.
Last lap around, it was certainly a lot of time that was eaten out of it. Wedding did a 2-minute flat to a 59.2 for Turra, but we'll see what happens.
I had Turra on my screen at the end of when he crossed the line at the end of his last lap, and gap was a 5.4 second lead to Wedding, and it's now 4.8, so that's another 6-7.
So Wedding does a 2-minute .1, and if we go to Turra, Turra's done a 59.3 this time around, so he definitely is eating in. The last 2 laps he's been finding time.
While we talk about this, Harvey is closing in significantly on Stairs as well. Stairs locked up into the final chicane.
That
gap is
really
now only 1.5 seconds, so this battle for the last podium position looks to be hotting up at the same time as Turra is closing in on Wedding.
Yeah, so Stairs has been losing touch with Turra as well. So Stairs at one point was only 5 seconds behind Turra, but Turra's pumping in mega laps, and as a result, Stairs has not been able to continue to bridge the gap as he has, and he's falling back into the clutches of Harvey here. We'll just stay with Stairs for a little bit, and we'll see how he attacks things. Actually, in actual fact, you know what we're going to do? We'll switch to Brock Harvey, because he's been very quietly, as Matt pointed out, chiseling away at this advantage, and he's driving that car very, very well. Managed to stay out of trouble. One of the few occasions that he has managed to stay out of trouble. We've seen him have a few dramas in the supercars and the Super Series, but this race seems to be working out for him quite nice. The Stairs is locking the brakes quite an awful lot going into the hairpin.
Just quickly while we're watching this, Cracker and Matt Webb, there is a 1/4 of a second between the two. Webb is all over the back of Cracker, and just behind them, a 1.5 seconds behind, we've got Davies and Boak with only 0.8 between them.
And they're all going to gain a position as well.
Oh, Cracker off the track there.
They're going to gain a position as well because Foley has to come in and serve his drive-through.
That's true.
Also, the timing screens, we are having some issues. Stairs is not in 11th.
Has gone down again.
Yeah, we saw this earlier in the race, and I think it'll be corrected right about now because Stairs is about to go through the Sector 2 split. There he goes, and it now corrects itself. Let's have a look at what's happening out in front because Wedding is crossing the line now, and that's a 59.2 for Lewis, so he's responded. Turra does a 59.3, so fairly even Stevens that time around. Just under 12 minutes remaining. And here's Stairs. You know what we're going to do, gentlemen? I'm going to switch over to Brock Harvey's onboard because it's rather loud inside this Aston Martin. Thank you, Lewis Wedding, for the wonderful onboard cameras. As he hunts downstairs, you can see him just out of shot at the moment on the right A-pillar. Now he comes back into shot as Harvey starts to sweep up through the S's, and I'll stay with him because the audio is very, very loud coming from that Aston Martin. I'm probably one of the only ones that can speak over it enough so that the viewers can hear what's going on, but he can hear the throttle modulation and the gear changes that Harvey's having to go through up through the S's as he tries to hone in on the back of that Audi. He's actually lost a little bit of time here. I think Stairs is responding. through the S's. Now that Harvey negotiates Dunlop curve, but just to give you an idea of how hard he's having to work that Aston Martin, he's certainly trying to push as hard as he can. Brenton Foley with another race control penalty, so he's done it. I think he's doing his drive-through at the minute, so he mustn't have been able to get it stopped in time to be able to adhere to the pit lane speed limit, and that's going to get that. And that's gotten worse. Yeah, drive-through on his drive-through, and that's gotten worse for him. Lewis Wedding is setting timing. He's seeing the timing screens alight. He's actually pulled out about another 3 or 4 tenths in that first sector and is red hot at the moment. So I think he's responding to this charge from Tara, and you can just see Tara in the background there getting just a glimpse of that Lamborghini before it goes through 130R. Sorry, Matt.
I've just got a message from Rob Dunt, who had the connectivity issues earlier. He's told me that the maximum fuel in a will last 16 to 17 laps if you're not saving. So it could be quite interesting with a couple of those Ferraris towards the end, the ones that pitted slightly earlier in the race.
Wedding sets the fastest lap of the race, 59.1.
I think that might be Wedding home there with 10 minutes to go, unless he makes a mistake. He's held out the carrot a little bit for Tara, made Tara push, and now he's just breaking his heart by driving away from him. I think the main battle that we'll want to look at now is, as Stairs has gotten away, is the battle between Cracker and Dwayne Davies and Matt Webb, because they are almost side by side coming into 130R. There's a 4-car battle for 7th place here.
Here we go. We've cut to the shot, and Cracker's the one holding position at the minute. Matt Webb's on the inside of Dwayne Davies and takes that position away for 9th. For 8th. Dwayne Davies slots into 9th. Both just losing a little bit of touch here as they all race down the front straight. Now, this Nissan is pretty quick in a straight line as well, but the McLaren is gaining on the back of that Audi and goes to the inside. Matt just tries to crowd him a little bit, and Dwayne forces Dwayne to pull out of it. So a little bit of chicken there.
Dwayne will be loving.
Oh, Cracker's gone deep. Sorry, guys, Cracker's gone deep, and Dwayne Davies sweeps through and grabs both of them in one hit. That was a fantastic move. We'll bring that up on the replay so you can have a look at that, just to see what happened ahead. So Davies down the front straight, and don't tell me Brendan Foley's got another penalty.
Drive through again for his drive through.
Just have a look at this on the replay. So Davies just takes the right line, bides his time. Cracker goes a bit wide. Matt Webb goes wide as well, and Dwayne Davies gets a 2-for-1 special on the run to turn 3, and that was a brilliant bit of driving from Davies. Just kept a nice, calm, cool head.
Matt Webb went wide in sympathy, and the position that he thought he'd gained, he immediately lost, which is unfortunate for him. He'll be unhappy with himself there.
Certainly will be unhappy with himself.
After the early incidents, Dwayne is having quite a good drive, but he could have done so much better starting before.
He certainly has a right to feel aggrieved given what happened at the start, but it's certainly an excellent recovery drive to get back up into 7th. He started 4th, so 7th is no skin off his nose. It's certainly a good result, but definitely not the result that he could have had today.
I don't know if he can feel aggrieved about what happened at the start. It was sort of his own doing, really. He spun himself on Heath's front, so I feel it was his own doing, but he's impressive that he's got back up so fast. What's really impressed me, though, is down the road from this, what was a 4-car battle, they're sort of stringing out a bit now, is Matt Schwartz, who started down in 15th place and has made his way up to 6th. He was the second last person to pit apart from Foley, and he's made that strategy work very well for him, gaining a lot of time.
Certainly has the Pro B runner, but inevitably, as we speak about him there, he goes onto the marbles at turns 1 and 2.
Lewis has won this race pending a mistake now. He's got the gap back out to 5.5 seconds and doesn't look like giving that up again.
And not only that,
if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were trying to put the commentator's curse on him.
Well, he wins enough.
Well, here he is. He's got 5.5 seconds on Greg Turra with 6 3/4 minutes remaining plus 1 lap. And I think most of the podium positions look like they're probably settled at this stage. So Wedding's got 5 seconds on Turra. Turra's got about 10 seconds on Stairs. Stairs just hasn't been able to go with Turra when he was challenging Wedding. And Harvey has unfortunately dropped a bit further back from Stairs.
Cracker's had to pit again.
Another pit lane penalty for Brendan Ross. So that's not Brendan Foley this time. This is Brendan Ross. So more Ferraris in the wars.
That's for track cuts.
More Ferraris in the wars.
As Brenton Foley served his drive-through without getting another drive-through, I'm happy to report.
He's about to go a lap down to Lewis Wedding as well, Brenton Foley, after what was an excellent drive coming out in 7th place. It's all gone horribly wrong for him, and he's right down the back of the field.
It's also been an excellent drive for Brock Harvey. He's had his fair share of bad luck in all series that we run.
Yeah.
And dropping the green from his livery has certainly seemed to help him. 4th here.
Well, what helped his cause as well, Matt, is he qualified extremely well. He qualified 6th, and to be up in 4th, he's certainly taken advantage of his opportunities when they've arisen.
Yeah, he has been qualifying in the other series around where I would normally. I'm anything but a qualifier, so that goes to show just how good a performance he's had at the qualifying and race tonight.
Well, the clock is ticking down. Just over 5 minutes remaining, and we're pretty confident that this race has been settled, although Harvey's just trying to nibble away still at Stairs. The gap's like 4 seconds, as you can see on the screen there. Maybe hoping that Stairs can make a mistake between now and the checkered flag, but he's going to need to have it go all his way, Harvey, if he wants to get onto the podium, but he'll still be happy with the 4th place. In actual fact, Stairs up the road's approaching lap traffic as well. I believe this is Brendan Ross in the Ferrari that Stairs is approaching, and he should and Ross gets out of the way, so that's good driving. And Harvey approaching Ross as well, so Ross will see that the lights of the Aston Martin are on and should get out of the way, probably down the back straight, I think. So as Harvey comes up to Spoon, turns 13 and 14.
Just a quick little question for you guys. If we were to do a drop day, who would you guys be giving that to at this point? We've seen a few very good drives through the field.
I think it's got to be Matt Schwass. I think he's gained the most positions over the course of the race, and he's up 9 positions, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong. And if I go to the screen, 9 positions. He's driven that car very, very straight as Tara pumps in a 58.6.
Cool.
Geez, that's mega quick for a racing lap. But no, back to your point, Matt. It's got to be Schwass, from my opinion. Up 9 positions, but I think he's only just ahead of Dwayne Davies in that awesome recovery drive from what he's been through to get back up to 7th place. Is probably one of his finest drives. But take nothing away from Matt Schwass. It's I think he's someone that we've got to keep an eye out for in this series because he seems to do quite nicely.
He's definitely one of our quiet performers that just seems to keep getting in the decent result week after week whenever the opportunity presents itself. Webb on debut as well has had a very clean race.
He has.
Good little battles he's been in, and in 8th place at the moment, which is definitely nothing to shake a stick at given the experience of the field.
He certainly is. Up 3 positions, and that last lap around for him was a 2:01.4, so doing quite a nice job. He's setting times that even some of the front runners would be proud of in that Audi. As we have... Sorry, go on, Bagsy.
For me, my driver of the day has got to be Wedding. Still, I picked him for the win despite him being in 3rd, and he got a good start. He got a good safety car restart. He made the move on Tara, and then he pumped in the laps when he needed to when Tara came into the pits to be able to come out comfortably ahead. And then when Tara came back at him towards the end of the race, he put in the laps needed to keep that gap nice and steady. And despite Tara being able to put in a few fast laps at the end of the race and perhaps deny Wedding the fastest lap of the race, Wedding's still going to go ahead with 2 minutes to go, most likely go ahead and win this race. So
and still extending the gap as well.
So that last lap around for Lewis Wedding was almost a 2 minute dead, 2 minutes .003, and when he crossed the line, and Brendan Ross gets another penalty, as he crossed the line, he had the clock pretty much read 2 minutes. So if Wedding just eases off the gas a little bit here, he'll only have 1 more lap to do when they come around the next time. If he pushes it and he does a 59, he ends up having to do 2 laps. So he wouldn't want that. He'll want this race to be over as quickly as possible. And we suspect, or we hope, we will probably get the white flag next time around.
Knowing Lewis to the very minor extent that I do, I think he'll fastest lap of the race.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. He's not lighting the timing screens up at the moment, but he's certainly not lost none of his flamboyance and his pace. He's still extending that gap, but I think Tara's probably given up here and just wants to consolidate second.
Yeah, Tara's led off here.
Yeah, Tara's backed off quite a lot. Throughout the field, it doesn't look like anyone else is really going to fight for position. Maybe Cracker, Luke, they've got about 8 tenths between them, which looks like it's just started to stretch out.
Yeah, Cracker's gone off, so while that spoon curve, so while that was close, it is no longer.
Yeah, well, I think
If I
Lewis
was
Wedding's
going for the top
probably
days,
approaching Cracker here as well, guys. I think I just heard the car go past, so not that far away from being. Yeah, there he
That's
is.
going to be interesting because Foley is right on the back of Wedding, so if they both make it across the line here, assuming Foley can make it across the line as well,
I think they have plenty of time to do it. So.
Yeah.
then Foley might get a shot at Cracker if he has to pull over for Wedding, so that'll be very interesting.
Well, Wedding negotiates the final chicane for what should be the penultimate time.
We'll see as he
comes to the line. Is 4, 3, 2,
he's
1.
He's slowing right down here.
White flag is in the air, so this is the final lap. So we'll get 36 laps. We estimate we were going to get 40, so actually that proves that prediction was probably wrong. We're probably going to get a little bit more than 40 if there was a green flag all the way. Wedding negotiates the first 2 turns for the final time, and now heading up through the S's. Been a supreme drive.
Sorry, I'm wondering if Greg Tara is saving fuel because the gap to Stairs is coming down at a rapid rate.
That is, it's 3 seconds.
It certainly is. So we'll rejoin that. We'll have a look at that battle as there is Greg Tara. And yes, Stairs is closing in at something a shocking rate. Tara's last lap time, gents, was a 2:07.7. And Stairs was a 2-minute flat. So he's honing in on the back of this Mercedes. This is going to be an exchange for positions if Tara's not careful. I think you're right. I think he's fuel saving.
He's not at full throttle here. He is doing it up the S's. He is very, very low.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. And here comes the Audi of number 5 of Stairs, and Greg just gives him the room. Tara just conceded. He just conceded defeat, and
he might lose to Harvey as well. Harvey is 11 seconds away and closing fast.
We'll see what happens here. Well, there he is. Stairs has got the lights on, and Stairs has got second place. So, a late exchange of positions. We'll keep an eye on the gaps, but we'll cut back to Lewis Wedding as he negotiates the second part of Spoon Curve for the final time.
The biggest Achilles heel of the Mercedes is obviously the consumption. With the amount of power it produces, it's always going to use more. And obviously, he just hasn't quite got the fuel strategy right today.
Well, one man who has got the strategy right is Lewis Wedding as he comes down to the Casio Triangle chicane for the final time. Well, he won in Adelaide when Coriotte ran out of fuel. He won in France by virtue of the safety car countback, and he wins here in Suzuka. 3 on the bounce for Lewis Wedding, and I dare say probably going to be the championship lead.
And Taro looks like he's just going to make it back in front of Harvey.
Well,
maybe we'll see if he coughs as he comes across the line.
We'll take nothing away from this man. Stairs is going to come across the line and finish second, and that's a fantastic result. He's been in the series only a couple of rounds, but a podium and second place is outstanding. Here's the one of interest. Tara's just going to try and coast it to the line, and he's just going to get there by the skin of his teeth. At 3 seconds in the end, he cut out just as he crossed the line. So fuel saving to the nth degree, and Brock Harvey had his best lap of 59.7. Wasn't on the final lap, but his best lap overall was 59.7. But he finishes 4th. No skin off his teeth either. That's off his nose. That is a very, very good result for Brock Harvey in the Aston Martin. Baker, Mr. Consistency, finishes 5th. Matt Schwass, as we said, he's probably our driver of the day. Excellent drive for him, finishing in 6th. Matt Webb on debut is actually up to 7th. Gained 4 spots from where he started. Great result for him. Boak will finish 8th. Dwayne Davies lost a couple of positions late there and recovering from a disastrous start to finish 9th. Rounding out your top 10 is going to be the Boatley Continental of Heath Dixon. And the remaining positions coming across the line. Luke will finish 11th, Cracker 12th, and the other guys, Foley, Ross and Aussie, all 1 lap down as Heath decides I've had enough and destroys that Bentley into the tyre wall. But class of the field yet again. Lewis Wedding, gents, 3 on the bounce, and we suspect the championship lead.
You can't help but be impressed every single time he gets out on track, even if he's not having a race. He's still just just to find insane pace throughout the race and can just maintain it for so long.
Last runner's just coming across the line now to complete the race. There's Luke finishing 11th, and Cracker takes the checkered flag for 12th. All the other guys across the line. And gents, that's all of GT3 action for tonight.
Oh, it was quite a good race. Wedding had it in his hands for most of the time, it seems. Exciting finish there with, once again, we've had a fuel-saving car right at the end who almost lost the podium yet again. Although in this case, if he'd run out the line, he would have had a downhill run, so he wouldn't have had the issue that Ott did back in Adelaide. But yeah, it was quite good. And speaking of that, we've got the person who came second on the podium here, Stairs, who benefited from Tara's massive fuel saving. Stairs, how'd you feel when you saw that gap dropping?
I wasn't looking at it, to be honest. I was actually more worried about Brock in the final sort of laps. He was closing me in at one stage, and I just put my head down and tried to break away from him. And I was just sort of aiming. I wasn't quite in the 159s, and I was just trying to get one of those, and I just buggered up the chicane on a lap where I was up by a significant amount, and I was annoyed with myself for not setting my fastest lap. And I saw this car up ahead and thought, oh, there's a lap car. I won't be able to set a fastest lap on this occasion because I'll probably catch up to him. And then I realised it was Greg, and I thought all my Christmases had come at once. So, yeah, that was pretty good.
Looks like your best lap was a 2-minute .009, so you didn't quite get that elusive 159.
I was very close a number of times, but yeah, I just didn't have the pace to do it in the race.
Well, Stairs, what were you thinking when you were only sort of about 5 or so seconds behind Greg and you were matching the pace, and then Greg just sort of upped the ante a bit and you lost touch with him, and then to see him come back to you with the fuel saving that he had to go through, did you think when he'd managed to pull away and you'd lost touch that you had to settle for third, or did you sort of never give up the hope that something ahead might have actually happened and you could have capitalised?
I never once thought that I was able to match Greg or Lewis. I thought they would seem to be in a class of their own pace-wise tonight. I probably have to thank Brock, because otherwise I wouldn't have pushed so hard if he wasn't closing in on me. Because I was worried about losing third. So the fact that he sort of spurred me on to get my head down and pull my finger out, do some quick laps, was the reason I was close enough to Greg to be able to capitalise on that, I think.
Well, congratulations on the second place, Stairs, and I'll give you an 8 out of 10 for donut. I saw at the corner of my screen.
Excellent. Yeah, it was good fun.
Well, nice segue. You were talking about Brock Harvey, because we spoke to him during the race, during the safety car period. Well, he's in here now. Brock, you've had a really, really good result, if I can get my words out. You've had a really, really good result at fourth, probably your best result for a long time, and come within a hair's breadth of grabbing Greg at the very end there for third when he started running out of fuel. But fourth is nothing to shake a stick at in terms of being right up there with the front runners.
Yeah, that was insane. That was fun. I was like, there's no way Stairs is not going to stop for fuel, because I saw how early he stopped. And
I stopped again, though.
Oh, there you go. I'm like, he has to stop again. So I was going to keep putting pressure on her and keep putting pressure on her. Hopefully he runs out of fuel. And in the end, I nearly ran out of fuel. I only just made it. I had to back off massively that second last lap. And then I was
in the lap after you did.
Yes.
I jumped you because I didn't have to put as much fuel on board as you did, obviously, because I pit during the safety car.
Fair enough. And then, I saw Greg was in third instead of Stairs, so I thought we'll just push, and I only just made it to the line. So I should have probably got third in the S's. I just ran a little bit wide as I was trying to push, and that probably cost me about a second. I think I probably missed out by about a second on third, but all good.
Well,
I said during the race that dropping the green from seems to have been well for you across Super Series, and now it seems to. Well done on getting fourth place, and hopefully you can do it again next time.
Yeah, thanks, man. Matt Harvey Repair and Tune, major sponsor. So no, that's the change from green to orange has been pretty successful thus far. So we'll probably stick with that moving forward. And I think that's a class win for us as well. I don't think there was any Group Bs in front of us. Just Stairs, just still unranked at the moment.
I'll get there.
Now,
that was top B for you, bro.
Cheers, man.
now there's one man sitting in this channel that I'd like to have a chat to if he's there, and that's Greg Tara. Greg, I know you're muted at the minute. Are you there? Yes.
There we go.
Or a little bit funky.
Fellas.
Well,
I hope, can you hear me, fellas? I might translate for you.
He's he's a little bit funky there, Greg. So we might come back to you in a sec. Lewis, 3 on the bounce, mate. You based on your current performance, we assume you've got the championship lead.
Well, I don't know what the point situation is, but yeah, certainly had to work for it today.
Well, you had a pretty decent sort of restart to the second. I think it was to the second safety car where you understood to the first safety car where you managed to send one up the inside of Greg, and you held the lead ever since, apart from when all the stops shook out. But cycled back to the front. Were you worried when Greg went in before you and tried to get the undercut that you had to pretty much pump the laps or the next lap in and come in straight away? Were you worried that the Mercedes was strong enough to undercut you, given how close he was?
With the running I'd done, adding fuel to the car it actually slowed it down enough that the undercut probably was taken out maybe a little bit. And then I knew I was able to match whatever times I was doing just before the pit stop. So I was quite confident that I'd be able to stay out in front. And then obviously the fuel calculations I did under the second safety car were pretty much perfect. And the shortened pit stop, I think I ended up gaining about 4 or 5 seconds just in the pit stop. So it was, I was quite confident, and it worked out perfectly.
Great to hear. Well, I think Greg's still having a few issues with his communication, so we might come back to him. About now, he is. Well, that sounds a lot better. That's much better. Well, for a brief moment, I think it was.
It's gone again.
Oh, come on.
Better get the question out quickly while it's working.
I want to know about the fuel. I want to know about the fuel saving, Greg. How bad was it?
Well, yeah, I think I had about 12 litres with 2 laps to go. Or one. I saw the time was going to count down, and I was going to have one more lap, and I was like, well, that's it. Safety car lap for me to get it home, and that was it. I just had to let Stairs go by and take third. I saw Brock so I had a bit of a buffer. And yeah, just rolled it over the line basically.
Well, you managed to get there in the end. Third place is well deserved. I mean, you're up there fighting with Lewis for a while, but well done on grabbing a podium. Your line's still a little bit shaky, and I think we better wind this up because I think some guys are keen to take in some action from the streets of Monaco. So without too much ado, let's have a quick look at what is upcoming in the land of AMS Australia. Is that somebody sneezing? No. In terms of what's next on the agenda, this coming Thursday, Super Series Round 8 from Phillip Island. So 2 races from Phillip Island in the Porsches in the Super Series as we draw that series to a close. The next Sunday in sequence is California Dreaming Time in Laguna Seca, California, USA for round 4 of the Formula 3. And Stairs, I believe you're going to be the man in the commentary box for that one, giving us a little switcheroo earlier this week with the supercars.
Yes, can't wait.
And come to the series, you take that over at a very, very interesting time as well. And the next
penultimate round now with the change of the calendars.
Certainly is.
Interesting.
And next round is for GT3 is in 2 Sundays' time at Sebring in Florida, and that is going to be, I believe, they're not quite there yet with the GT3 rounds. There's still a couple of rounds to go, but it's hotting up rather nicely. Well, gents,
got the championship standings just before we head off.
Go for it.
Lewis Wedding has taken the championship lead with his 3rd victory on the trot, so he's 60 points. He's 3 points ahead of Baker, who has been very consistent. He's got 3 5th places so far. He's on 57 points, 1 point ahead of Brock Harvey on 56. Heath Dixon is 4th on 44, and there's a tie for 5th with Greg Nangle and Stairs on 43. Schwass, Thomas, Snow, Ott, and Tara round out the top 10.
Well, that is your current top 10 after 5 rounds of GT3 action in the AMS Australia GT3 series. Join us in 2 weeks for round 6, and we'll see you on Thursday for Super Series action. Bagsy, Matt, thank you again for joining me in the commentary box. It's certainly been a pleasure as always.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
And to all you viewers at home, and always, as I say, please drive safely, and we'll see you next time.